Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of Reddit Podcast Stories, where today, my sister showed up at my front door after driving across the country to see me. I turned her away. I, 28 female, have always been incredibly close with my sister who's 30. We'll call her Sam. Since we've been kids, we always hung out together, shared friend groups, hobbies, interests, and genuinely liked being around each other. However, she recently got a new girlfriend who's 29, Trisha, and our dynamic has really changed. I don't like Trisha at all. She's not really rude or unpleasant, but I just don't vibe with her, and I think she's annoying. I've expressed this to Sam, which resulted in one of our biggest arguments to date. I understand that my opinion doesn't really matter in their relationship, but I just don't enjoy being around Trisha, so Sam and I have seen each other less and less and have been getting into more and more arguments. I recently moved halfway across the country for my job, and Sam asked if she could come and visit. I excitedly said yes, as I wanted to show her all the new hiking spots by me, and I genuinely wanted to have sister time again. However, she then asked if Trisha could come along as well. I don't really have the space or means of hosting at my new place, and despite Sam saying she would happily sleep on the floor or the couch, I just really didn't want to be on while she was around. I told my sister I really just wanted it to be her and I hanging out and exploring this side of the country, and thus began another argument. Eventually, I told her, either come alone or don't come at all, which I half assumed would put an end to the visitation plans, but later she agreed she would come alone. Fast forward to when she was planning on visiting. I'm getting extra excited and having a whole plan for the week mapped out. Sam texts me when she leaves her place, and since I know it's a 15-hour drive, yes, she chose to take it straight through, she would be arriving at my place around 10 p.m. 10 p.m. rolls around and she knocks at my door, and I open it to both Sam and Trisha. I didn't even know what to say or do. I was shocked. Both of them looked happy to see me, but I just couldn't understand what happened. Eventually, the anger and embarrassment caught up with me, and I refused to let them in. Things got a little heated and frustrating, and it resulted in me telling them angrily to find a motel somewhere or drive home. They both chose to get a motel after quite a bit of fighting and yelling, which is where they are right now. My family is furious with me for making them look for a hotel so late at night, even though it's a pretty highly populated area with many options around. I'm quite embarrassed and worked up over this whole thing, but I don't think I made the wrong move, considering I set my boundaries pretty clearly. I feel like I might have overreacted, as I genuinely don't think Sam or Trisha will ever speak to me again. I just can't believe my entire relationship with my sister has come to such a screeching halt over a girlfriend she's had for just over a year. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk for setting boundaries and sticking to them. Your sister tried to pull a fast one on you and is now paying the price of a hotel room for it. Ultimately, however, you will need to decide if losing your sister is worth it. This relationship may or may not last, but the hurt you just caused will be something she remembers for a long time. If you want her in your life, you need to have a one-on-one with her and let her know how you felt when she lied about coming alone, and also springing someone she knows you're not fond of on you and into your personal space. I feel like I'm gonna get downvoted by the "but your boundaries" crowd, but here we go. Everyone sucks here. Sam absolutely should not have surprised you by showing up at your door with Trish. She set up a situation rife for drama and embarrassment for both you and Trish. She's a jerk. That said, I really think refusing a family member entry to your home and making them get a hotel in the middle of the night should be reserved for relationships with a lot of history and drama. In other words, something more than being a bit annoying. I also think it's a bit selfish of you to demand your sister travel across the country to see you, but not be allowed to bring her girlfriend. You're essentially saying, use your limited time and money and pay time off only for me, when it's reasonable and even expected that these things would also be shared with the person's significant other. Bottom line, you admit that Trish is not really rude or unpleasant, and yet you were exactly that to Trish and Sam. Is the issue really that you just don't vibe with her girlfriend? Because that seems like a crazy thing to lose your sister over. What if they get married or they stay together forever without marriage? At one point, do you say, "Oh well, we'll never be sisters again because I don't like the vibes"? You're allowed to have boundaries, but your reasoning for not liking her is shaky. Your sister should have kept the trip the way y'all planned it, but you need to go ahead and let her know you've decided that if she dates people and wants to be in your life, then she has to make sure you give final approval on future partners, and once she breaks up with her girlfriend, you'll be ready for her apology and the keys to her life. Am I the jerk for throwing out my husband and my son a few days before Christmas? My husband, who's 41, and I, 38 female, have 2 kids. Our daughter, Rachel, who's 15, and our son, Tim, who's 13. Since forever, I've been begging my husband to do more around the house, but he continues to be a lazy man-child. He does the bare minimum when I force him to, and that's it. And our son is learning from him. He's not doing his chores, not cleaning up his messes, and expecting his sister to cater to him. Hubby is enabling him and secretly overrules me when I punish Tim. We had more than one argument because of their laziness. Yesterday I was shopping with Rachel, and we met a friend from work and her boyfriend. So I called my husband and asked him and Tim to clean the house ASAP because I'll bring home guests. When we arrived home nearly 2 hours later, the house was a mess. I never felt so embarrassed in my life. My friend smiled and downplayed it as normal, but I was able to see the look she exchanged with her boyfriend. We chatted for 20 minutes after I cleaned the living room a bit and they left. I finally had enough. I told hubby and Tim to get out of my house and don't come back until they learn to respect me and be helpful around the house. We had a bad argument, and in the end, they gave up and left. My son has called me since from the motel where he and hubby are staying and begged me to let him back in. I told him he can ask me in 2024 and I might consider it. They're banned for Christmas. Family will gather in my house this year, and for New Year's Eve. Tim will then return. Hubby, I'm not sure yet. My mom and sister are against this. They think I'm way too harsh, especially to Tim. But I think he needs a serious wake-up call, and this is it. And I don't give a hoot about hubby at this point. Am I the jerk? Edit. The text says clearly Tim will return home. This is just a wake-up call for him. Maybe he can even return for Christmas if he promises to do his chores from now on. Quick update. My son called me again. I explained the situation and what I expect from him. He agreed to sign a paper where all his chores will be listed. He also agreed to help his sister with all of her chores until New Year's Eve. I will pick him up tomorrow. Didn't talk with my husband. Update 2. I picked my son up from the hotel in the early morning. He couldn't wait. I apologized for throwing him out, but explained my reasoning to him. He signed the paper and promised to do better from now on. I'm happy to have him back. Hubby tried to talk to me when I picked Tim up, but I didn't even listen. As for him, he can stay away for a while, and I will have the time to think about our relationship. Just curious, how did you get them to actually leave? Asking for a friend. This is a perfectly reasonable question. I had an ex-boyfriend living in my house. I told him I wanted him to leave, and he just didn't. I had to write up a formal eviction and take it to court. Merry Christmas. Laughing out loud at the lazy slob who wrote, and then deleted, honestly, if it had been me, no matter how justified you felt or actually were, your next conversation with me would be to tell you to sign the papers. Oh no. Imagine being a lazy deadweight slob and thinking that saying you'll get a divorce is a threat. Throw out the husband and keep the son. There's still a chance you can influence him to be a better human. If left with your husband, that chance is gone. You're a hero to your daughter for sure. Way to take a stand. You're the jerk. Being lazy and not doing chores and being a crappy dad is not okay, but kicking out your 13-year-old son. Also, I hate last-minute events. You can't make a dinner date or friends come over and expect everyone to shift their time. You should plan accordingly. You're the jerk. You kicked your 13-year-old kid out of your house and banned him from Christmas. You're a monster. What kind of mother does that? I completely understand kicking your husband out or you yourself getting separation, but to punish your 13-year-old for that is beyond messed up. You're teaching your daughter that it's acceptable to treat your son like this, even though it's your fault he's acting up. Be a better mother. I can't believe you get the privilege of motherhood and so many wonderful women never get to be moms. Laughing out loud. Imagine if a man had wrote this story. I decided to have friends over, so texted my wife telling her and our daughter to get the house spotless before I got home. They failed to do that, so I kicked my wife and daughter out and won't let them attend Christmas. Reddit hypocrisy as usual. Am I the jerk for telling my brother if he's going to be late, don't show up? I, 31 female, and my husband, 29 male, got married a week ago. Yay! I spent 2 years planning my wedding and everything was great except for my brother, who's 36 male, his tardiness with every event that he came to. For context, my brother and I don't get along. We never have. I only invited him for my parents. Also, I was adopted, so he's not biologically related to me. He's always late, and in the past we've had to tell him an event was 2 hours earlier than it really was, so that he'd be on time. He was late to my high school and college graduations, and he missed me walk both times. When I was sending invitations, I put in an extra note in his that read as follows: I know Mom, Dad, and I would love for you to attend, but if you're going to be late, don't bother showing up. Your girlfriend and her daughter are welcome to attend with or without you. He called me for the first time in years and lost it on me. I held my ground and said I would still appreciate him coming to the wedding, but I won't allow him to interrupt the ceremony by being late. He then called my parents and yelled at them as well. They said it was my wedding and they stood by my decision. He came to the wedding, but he walked in as I was walking down the aisle and walked past me to his seat. I was horrified and embarrassed and mad. I didn't know exactly what I was feeling in the moment, but it was a mixture of things. After the ceremony, my dad and my biological father, who I'd become close with over the years since I met him, both spoke to my brother about how that was inappropriate and rude. My brother didn't care and asked where the bar was. He was forced to leave. Am I the jerk? Why do you still allow him in your life when he's clearly not interested? There's late, and then there's walking down the aisle at a wedding. OP. It's one of the many reasons we don't get along. He blames me for ruining his life when our parents chose to adopt me. My dad is an attorney and heard about my situation when I was 6 and adopted me. My brother says that I ruined his life. Do your parents know this? OP. No, I never told them. I don't want to feel like they have to choose between their kids. My brother likes to remind me that he's their son and I'm not their daughter. Just some kid that they took pity on, but I never saw it that way. His loss. OP. Thank you. He treats me like this, then asks to use my equipment. I own a cattle ranch, when his isn't working. I've never loaned it out because I don't trust it to come back working. He wants to be my brother, but when he wants to use my shooting range or my four-wheeler, I've never let him onto the ranch. He's never even seen my house. My daughter's afraid of him, honestly. Update. As a lot of people in the comments on this original post said, I told my parents everything. How my brother has told me that I ruined his ideal life. How my parents pitied me, and that's the only reason they adopted me. How I'll never be a member of the family, etc. I also told them that if I host any events at my home and ranch, I will be hosting Christmas this year since I have the space for the whole family, biological and adopted. My brother will not be invited. I do not want him in my life anymore. The event at my wedding was the final straw. I'll be civil if we see each other at family functions that I am not hosting, but I will not be in contact with him anymore unless there's an emergency with our parents. My parents support and understand my position. I told them that this is not me making them choose between us, and this is just me drawing a line in the sand and setting a boundary. I love my parents. They saved me from a horrible situation and gave me the best life I could have hoped for. If not for them, I wouldn't have my beautiful daughter, wouldn't have met my husband, or have my amazing ranch. My ranch hands, Lloyd in particular, said that if my brother ever attempted to come onto the ranch without my knowledge, they would boot him fast. Of course, his wife and daughter are welcome anytime. I want to thank everyone for the support and kind comments and helping me see that he does not treat me like family and I should stop trying to extend the olive branch since he keeps burning it. Am I the jerk for not putting a stop to my stepdaughter correcting the food the host made? I, 32 female, have been dating a widower with a daughter, Nara, who's 12, for a year. We currently moved to a new city because of my boyfriend's job promotion. I freelance, and we're in the middle of settling down. Nara and I get along very well. Nara plays tennis. Since the move, she's been in the school team and competed a bit. The parents of her teammates often organize some kind of get-together, and her father and I tried our best to have her attend most of them. I would say Nara got along well with all of her teammates, and I thought the parents were friendly. Last week, the team captain's parents hosted a potluck party at their place. Nara and I brought over some brownies. There really were a lot of different kinds of food. The team captain's father did most of the greeting, telling us his wife was preparing something special for us all. Once everyone was at the party, the wife came out of the kitchen with a special dish, a recipe of a specific country. Now, Nara looks white, but her late mother actually came from that very country. The wife host began to serve everyone and share her recipe and ingredients, and how it was not that difficult to make once you substitute the local ingredients, and feel free to ask her for tips. At this point, Nara spoke up, saying that the authentic recipe included such and such, and how their particular scent and taste added to the whole experience of eating the dish. She said if so many substitutes were used, they might as well call the dish a different name. The wife host looked a little unsettled and told Nara that she and her husband traveled a lot in their youth, and she had the dish many times and knew what it was supposed to taste like, and the substituted ingredients worked just fine. Nara then said her mom was from the dish's country of origin, and she understood that some ingredients were hard to come by, but substituting so much turned the dish into something else altogether. During all this, I mostly kept silent. Nara was not being rude, just matter of fact, and as this was a matter of her heritage, I thought she could speak up. The host wife spluttered a bit before saying everyone should just go ahead and enjoy her dish, no matter the name. Everyone tried it, though nobody asked for seconds. I personally thought it was a little bland, and there were a lot of leftovers. Nara's team captain later called her, thanking her for putting her annoying stepmom in her place. When my boyfriend came back from his business trip and learned of this, however, he thought I should have reprimanded Nara for being rude to the host. He also had a talk with Nara, and she seemed to be sulking a bit, though she was not grounded or anything. Am I the jerk? You're the jerk. Nara was extremely rude. This woman opened up her home and spent time and money to prepare this meal. Nara trashed it before she even ate it. Maybe you and Nara don't realize this, but there are different ways to prepare a cultural dish. Not everyone in a particular culture prepares their food the exact same way. Maybe the dish tastes similarly to the way it was prepared when the hostess ate it during her travels. Your stepdaughter needs to learn graciousness and respect. If I pulled something like this when I was her age, my mom would make me write an apology letter to the mom. Then she would volunteer our family to host the next team get-together and make me do all of the cooking by myself, so I would learn to have respect for people who invite me into their home and prepare a meal for me. The team captain is also an ungrateful brat. If her stepmom is so annoying, she needs to learn to handle the hosting duties for these gatherings herself. You're the jerk. Not a huge jerk, but still. Being a gracious guest is a skill that everyone should learn. Was your stepdaughter technically right? Probably. But she made the host uncomfortable unnecessarily. I get that it might be a pain point for her, given her mother has passed on, but she was actually being rude. The host wanted to share something with her guests that she obviously was proud of, and your stepdaughter called her out in front of everyone. My boyfriend gives me horrible gifts, and I'm fed up. We've been together since 2019. Our first Christmas together, I got him an Alexa, with the accessories to make his apartments a smart home. He moved into an apartment around his birthday, so I got him a microwave, toaster, silverware, etc. His most recent birthday, I got him an at-home golf set because he recently became obsessed with golf. It cost more than I expected, but I was happy to give it to him. Our first Christmas together, he gave me a video game and the money he owed me. For my birthday, he got me another video game. My birthday and Christmas are coming up, the same day. I bought him a signed Steelers football because that's his favorite NFL team. He just told me the gift he got me, and this might be dramatic, but I had to stop myself from crying. He went on a solo vacation earlier this year, and my birthday present is that he printed the pictures from his vacation and put it in a photo book. This is his gift to everyone, his mom, sisters, brothers, friends, and me. He mentioned it before, and I politely told him I did not want that gift. I actually told him I would hate it, and he laughed it off. I've been telling him since we started dating that I like jewelry, and I would love that as a gift. He tells me he hates going into jewelry stores, and more recently, a couple days ago, said, "You already have so much jewelry. Why would I buy you more?" At this point, it feels disrespectful. After finding out my gift today, I told him to just not get me anything. It literally feels like he doesn't care about me or my feelings. He calls me materialistic because I like to buy myself things, and I feel like if I tell him how I truly feel, he'll just call me materialistic more. And maybe I am materialistic. Maybe this is a sweet and thoughtful gift, and I ruined it for him. My jaw dropped at the multiple photo books of his vacation. Is this something that people do? Why would I want a coffee table book of someone else's vacation pictures? If someone in my family got us all this gift, they would never live it down. The issue isn't the gifts. The issue is that he makes no effort to do something you would like. He sounds like he's in his own head. This isn't going to change, so it's up to you whether or not you want to be with him long term. Stop buying him sweet and thoughtful gifts. Give him a framed picture of himself. You need to consider if you really want to remain in this relationship. It feels like he doesn't care about you or your feelings because that's what his actions are showing you. I'm sorry, I wish I'd walked away from men like him in the past, and I hope you do too. My boyfriend now gets so excited about buying me gifts on Christmas that he always overdoes it. There's partners out there that will match your efforts if you only make the space for them. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her boyfriend? Please let us know. Am I the jerk for making my nephew apologize immediately in front of his friends? I, 33 male, am staying at my grandparents' house for the holidays. My grandparents passed away and the house was maintained by their kids, making it a communal space for all family members to use. The rooms are usually saved for those of us who visit from out of town like me. I have a cousin, Frank, who's 34, who also visits but stays elsewhere. We were close growing up. Frank was married to his high school sweetheart, Kim, for around 10 years, and they had a 6-year-old daughter. Kim passed in an accident just a little over a year ago. Frank was more than devastated. What set Frank apart from most guys is I know how deeply he loved his wife. He was an exceptionally happily married man. His goodbye phrase to me in private or in public was, "See you later, miserable single loser." He was making fun of how I never had a long-time girlfriend. I always took it in good fun. It was nice to see a guy so devoted, given that my parents and more than half of my aunts and uncles are divorced. A few days after I stayed at my grandparents', my nephew Tom, who's 17, showed up with a few friends wanting to watch a movie. Tom lives with his sister nearby. I ordered the boys some pizza and I joined them. A bit later, Frank dropped by, wanting to catch up with me. We stayed in the same room and talked. Frank seemed to be doing much better since the last time I saw him a month after Kim's funeral. Once the movie was over, Tom asked if they could hang out in the room for a while, and I said yes. Frank, however, excused himself, saying he needed to go pick up his daughter. We hugged goodbye, and Frank was about to leave when Tom said, "What? None of that miserable single loser stuff? Welcome to the club. Guess now you're a miserable single loser too." I could see the colors drain from Frank's face, and he looked like he was going to pass out. I immediately turned to Tom and told him to apologize, and now. Tom said, why should he apologize? And I only raised my voice with, "Now." Tom glared at me, but finally looked away and softly said sorry to Frank. Frank just left. Tom's friends mumbled about how they had to go and quickly cleaned up and left. Tom left with them. Later that night, Tom's father called me from across the country, reprimanding me that I should not shame Tom in front of his friends like that. He said he understood what Tom said was insensitive, but being scolded like a kid in front of his friends was not how I should handle this. I could wait and have Tom apologize later. Am I the jerk? No. What you did was absolutely the right thing. Tom needed to be told immediately and in no uncertain terms that what he said was absolutely and completely awful, and then he needed to apologize immediately. Tom literally could have walked up to Frank and sucker punched him, and it would have hurt Frank less. Not the jerk. If you haven't already, spend some time talking to Tom's dad and make sure he knows what really happened. Tom may have described what happened in a way that made him less of a bad guy. Karen closes down my street so her kids and dogs can play in the road. I live on the end of a cul-de-sac in a newer built neighborhood. I've been here for over 5 years now. I'm the only person in the cul-de-sac that doesn't have kids, as I'm a single female. The mamas usually close off the cul-de-sac every morning, sometimes during the day too when it's nice out, and they allow their kids and dogs to play all over the street and my yard, driveway, and porch. There are 8 kids in total, ranging from ages 1 to 6. The problem is that this is usually when I'm coming home from work after a long day. The mamas expect me to park on the street and walk to my home and then come back later when they're done and get my car in the garage. And I'm not doing this. There's typically toys and various types of tricycles laying all over the road. The parents and kids are also in the road and nobody will move from my car as I maneuver around all the obstacles. I've installed security cameras and planted barriers around my property to discourage the trespassers. However, they just throw my mulch, ride bikes through my flower beds. Their dogs have urinated so frequently on my plants that they are now deceased, and they defecate in my yard and leave it. The kids have messed up my cars and broken many things, electrical items. Their 1-year-old is frequently found on my porch, and I mean multiple times a day. It's only my yard this happens to. However, yesterday was the last straw. I was coming home and the road was closed as usual for their makeshift mommy and me time. I drove around the obstacles and pulled up in my driveway. 2 kids, maybe about 5 or 6, ran up in my car between me and the garage door, and they held out their hands so I couldn't pull up. They were blocking my path. Yes, they were in my driveway about a foot from my garage door. The mamas see it happen and do nothing. Next thing I know, a mama is running over, screaming at me that I'm driving too fast up my driveway. She was referencing how the kids play in the yard in the driveway, and I'm putting them in danger and banging her fists on my door. I then woke up this morning to find she had made a large sign that said, "No speeding, kids at play," and put it in my yard facing my front door. I did make a call to the police, but they said there's really nothing they can do for neighbor disputes, even though they're trespassing and closing roads. Is this right? How else can I handle this? What would you do? Am I truly in the wrong here? I've spoken to them before, and they've just suggested that I move if I can't be in the village that helps raise the kids. Should I report this? The neighbors all agree that I'm the problem here, and they're ganging up on me, as they feel I should park and wait and allow the kids to play on my property. I even have security footage of a parent instructing their kid to steal from my property to teach me a lesson because I planted barriers. Call the non-emergency number and ask about road closure rules. This is a major safety issue because emergency vehicles will be impeded by the road closure and all of their stuff on the roads. Also, report all property damage and trespassing. They already can't stand you, so no need to worry about rocking the boat. Tip it over and drench them. Drive up with the most annoying gangsta rap music you can blaring from your car. Give the moms a concert until they move their crap. Teach their kids some new vocabulary words. This is why I live in the country. Neighborhoods just suck, and I don't know why people put up with living there. Houses extremely close to each other, high crime rates, no views of nature, loud, obnoxious neighbors playing dumb music, extreme bass rattling your walls when you're trying to sleep, kids screaming outside all hours of the day, cars with loud engines and motorcycles, dogs barking nonstop, parties all hours of the night. I'd pick these snakes and coyotes over that mess any day. Most people want to stay in the city so they're closer to their job, but a longer work commute has always seemed worth it to me to save my sanity. Nothing is better than sitting on the back porch in the morning drinking my coffee without another soul in sight as far as the eye can see. This is how we were meant to live, not in boxes stacked next to each other or on top of one another. How I complied my way out of a parking ticket. A few years ago, I parked in a paid parking lot, but forgot to buy a parking ticket. When I came back a few minutes later, I discovered an $80 ticket on my dash. While I was frustrated about my own forgetfulness, the ticket itself was fair. However, I came to discover that the amount they had charged me was not. Before leaving the lot, I noticed a small detail on the terms and conditions sign at the entrance of the lot. It said that a failure to pay for a parking ticket would result in a $70 ticket, not the $80 ticket that I was charged. While I'm no lawyer, I do know that those signs essentially create an implicit contract upon entering the lot. Therefore, the company was technically violating their own contract by charging me extra. I appealed the ticket, stating that I would be happy to pay the agreed upon $70, but it was rejected. I then reached out directly to customer service, explaining the same situation. They rejected my request to pay the valid $70 because their ticket amounts are non-negotiable. Cue the malicious compliance. I realized that by their own words, they are the ones attempting to negotiate the price by charging me an extra $10. So I called up the supervisor of their claims department. She was already aware of this dispute and immediately attempted to shut me down, saying, "The signage is not up for discussion." I reminded her that their company's policy states that ticket amounts are non-negotiable and that given what the terms on the sign stated, they were trying to negotiate a higher price. Once again, she shut me down, stating the signage is not up to discussion. The rest of the conversation went something like this. Me: "So, where can I escalate this from here?" Her: "There is no more escalation. Next stage is court." Me: "Seems silly to go to court over $10, don't you think?" Her: "Yeah, it does." Me: "Okay, well, I'll begin the small claims court process over the non-negotiable price issue then." Her: "Okay." I was having fun at this point, and I was fully ready to start taking legal steps over this $10 on a matter of principle, and knowing that if I did, the company would immediately cave. Before doing that, however, I sent one final email to the vice president of the company. I explained the whole dispute, explained the signage, their non-negotiable policy, and how the appeal supervisor told me my next step was to take it to court. I offered them the opportunity to resolve this civilly before going on to that stage. Not even 3 hours later, I got an email back stating that my ticket had been fully cleared as a courtesy. I called their bluff, maliciously complying to the contract and the take it to court attitude, and it worked. As an added bit of pettiness, I replied thanking them and CC'd the appeals supervisor. I then directly addressed her, telling her that this is how easy it could have been resolved if she would have just actually addressed the signage issue. The moral of the story: push back against parking lot companies. They use shady practices and try to scare people into paying unjustly. Often a simple but credible legal threat will make any issue disappear. And as some have pointed out, yes, these parking tickets aren't usually enforceable. That being said, if I ever wanted to use this lot again, which is the only one in the area, then I would have to get it resolved, lest I get towed. Also, I can't recall exactly how the appeals woman brought up court, but I don't think she implied that I should sue. I think it was more of a veiled, "we will sue you" statement, which was of course a bluff. Regardless, as many pointed out, her mentioning court at all was a bad idea on their part. My boyfriend asked his ex-girlfriend to make a workout plan for me that would make me look like her. I, 20 female, and my boyfriend Alex, 22 male, met 3 years ago, but we started dating 10 months ago. When I first met Alex 3 years ago, we were both in separate relationships. At the time, he was dating Ellie, 22, female. Alex and I had a mutual friend back then and would often meet in a group setting with our partners and a few more couples. We both got out of our own relationships at the same time a year ago and then hit it off. Ellie works out a lot, and Alex and her would often go to the gym together back when they dated. She has a slim, thick body type with a flat stomach, bigger thighs, and slim arms. She's very pretty, and it's hard not to be jealous. Her figure almost looks like a real-life Mrs. Incredible. I, on the other hand, am slim and thin. I'm just tall, skinny, and no curves. I don't mind the way I look. Alex never seemed to dislike the way I looked either. He had asked me one time before if I wanted to get a gym membership and work out with him, but I said no, and he never asked again. Yesterday, Ellie reached out to me through Instagram and asked if I had talked to Alex about wanting to start working out. I said no because I hadn't. I was a bit confused and asked why she was asking me. She then proceeded to send me multiple screenshots of conversations with Alex. He had asked her to put together a workout plan and a meal plan that would make my body look like hers. He told Ellie that it was my idea and that I had asked him to ask her. I never did. He was also very strict with making sure that she sent the plan to him and not me. Ellie thought this was a little suspicious and decided to ask me before she made the plan. I haven't told him that I know about it, and I genuinely don't know where to go from here. I feel so insecure now. Ellie has been an absolute saint through this and has really tried to make me feel pretty, although it doesn't work. Alex is apparently not happy with the way I look. Not only does he want me to change, but he wants me to look like his ex. I love this guy so much, and he's been absolutely perfect until now. Am I overreacting? Edit. He's my ex-boyfriend now. That's so humiliating. I'd never forgive him. Ellie is a girl's girl and did you a favor. Take it and dump the jerk. Am I the jerk for not marrying someone just because she's pregnant? I, 27 male, unfortunately got my girlfriend, who's 25, pregnant 3 months into dating. She was on birth control, but it failed. In hindsight, I should have used other precautions as well, but I figured that birth control was supposed to be 99.9% effective. I never thought I'd be that 0.1%. She said if she had an accidental pregnancy, she wouldn't have it. After getting pregnant, she changed her mind and wanted to keep it. I won't lie that I'm not happy about this decision, but I realized it's her choice, and I don't get a say. It is what it is. She's now almost 7 months pregnant and very much showing. Her parents are very traditional, and her dad is a relatively well-known person in his community. He has a somewhat high-profile job as well, even has a Wikipedia page. To say her parents are trying to get us to get married before the kid is born is putting it lightly. It started off just expecting. So, when are you getting married? And now it's more, you better get married before this kid is born, because my grandkid won't be born without married parents. Personally, I'm not interested in marriage. My parents are both married and divorced twice. Most marriages in my extended family have gone the same, and I just don't really care for the institution. Not knocking it for people who choose it, but it's not for me. Even if it were, I wouldn't feel ready to marry my girlfriend anyway, because we still haven't even been together for a full year. I'd want to date her for at least 2 years before getting married. I'm not even sure if I'd still be with my girlfriend if she hadn't gotten pregnant. I'd rather see if we can make it work than not try, but I'm not keen on jumping into marriage just because there'd be a kid in the picture. I think she's a great person, but I wouldn't say I feel like I'm in love with her. The girlfriend started off indifferent, but is now trying to get me to get married as well. I don't think it's so much she wants to be married to me as much as her parents have convinced her she'll be an embarrassment to have a kid out of wedlock. In a twist, last week, her father offered to buy the ring, pay for the wedding, and give us $100,000 to get married before the kid is born. Not to be nice, but save himself from what he feels is an embarrassment. The whole thing just feels slimy to me. We both have good jobs, and while the money would be nice, we don't really need it. I make enough in my job to provide for the kid, as does she. Am I the jerk for not just sucking it up and marrying her, even if I'm not really in love with her? I've been in this exact same position a couple months into our relationship. Told my parents that we would rather be happy, good parents than married parents, and maybe someday we could be both. We reiterated that we wanted to marry for ourselves and not for our circumstances. We were engaged on my son's first birthday. We have now been happily married for 21 years. As long as you're there for your kid, there's nothing wrong with not getting married until, if, and when you want to. Not the jerk. You should never get married to someone you're not sure about, even if there is a baby in the picture. Also, you need to be there for your kid. I don't mean married or even dating the mom. The kid didn't ask to be born and deserves to have a father. My husband was in this exact situation with his ex and opted to not marry her. If her father is truly a man of God, he should not be basically bribing someone to desecrate the sanctity of marriage. You can still be a great father without getting into a marriage you don't 100% want. You're the jerk. Stop having kids with people you're not married to. When you look at prison statistics, kids growing up in fatherless homes will always be at an extreme disadvantage and are 8 times more likely to end up in prison. I grew up with a great mom and a dad who are married and still are. Guess what? I'm extremely successful and have a great life. My friends who grew up this way, they also are very successful now. All the friends I had who grew up without a dad, none of them are doing well in life now. I hope one day we can evolve to remember how important marriage and family structure is, but at our current rate, I don't think it will ever happen. My sister's daughter ruined my daughter's birthday. My daughter's 5th birthday was 2 days ago. It was hectic to say the least, but I wanted to make her happy. My husband and I informed the rest of the family that she would be having a birthday party because she did not have one the previous year. She asked if some of her friends could come over, and I said yes. She had planned her entire birthday, but her father and I needed to get the supplies. It would be too small inside my house, so we did it in the backyard. My mother and aunts came over for her birthday, and my husband left to go pick up his mother, who had traveled from Guatemala to see her grandkid. My husband's sisters took our daughter out shopping. My sister arrived with her kids. I don't want to sound like a mean aunt, but her kids are bad, disrespectful, and unconcerned about others. She stands by and lets them get away with everything. As everyone arrived with bags of gifts and treats, I assisted my daughter in putting on her dress and heels. We wanted to do something special for her, so my mother laid out a red carpet in front of her door so we could photograph her. The party was going well, everyone was eating, and I got to meet some of the family members on my father's side. The kids were dancing with the mascot while the adults ate and drank. The family was filming a happy moment when the kids became fussy and were ready to eat the cake. My daughter sat in her high princess chair, and my sister's daughter stood on a chair next to her, so I asked everyone to turn off the lights and take out their phones. We lit the candles and sang happy birthday. However, just as my daughter was about to blow out her candle, my niece blew it out. My daughter pushed and hit her cousin, causing her to cry and fall off the chair. Both of the girls were crying. My sister yelled at me for being immature and saying that my daughter was out of control. I told her that it was my daughter's birthday, not hers. I may come across as harsh, but I believe she deserved it because I don't understand why some parents think it's amusing for their kid to ruin another person's birthday. My mother got everyone to stop arguing because she hated seeing her family fight. I lit my daughter's candle again and made sure to stand by her side so my niece wouldn't do it again. The cake was enjoyed by the kids after the commotion. I didn't think my kid was right for what she did, and at the end I did discipline her by taking away her iPad and not letting her play with her toys. She's never done that before, so I don't know why she did it. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. Your niece is a brat, and your sister enables her behavior. It's only going to get worse from here. Am I the jerk for refusing to give sister-in-law's daughter my cotton candy? I'm female 35. My boyfriend, Francis, is 43, and we're on shaky ground right now because I walked out on our date in front of sister-in-law. Part of it is that he's in the habit of inviting people on our dates without even asking me first. Because of this, I briefly asked for a break last summer. I've told him many times that I don't feel heard and that this makes me feel like my needs don't matter. For background, we're both very close to our families. I'm very understanding about his love for them. What I don't like is that many times his idea of making them happy is in conflict with my well-being. For example, we could plan a pizza and a movie outing, and he gets a call from his brother, and he tells them exactly where we're going, so that brother-in-law, who's 30, can show up. Or having my other brother-in-law, who's 36, pop in while we were having a very romantic date at my favorite sushi restaurant. It's not that I'm against seeing his family, but sometimes I feel misled. His brothers almost always end up not paying, so he pays for brother-in-law, but then I have to cover for him. His sister, who's 41, is an entirely different story. She's always sour and angry looking and very petty. She's very quick to do Facebook Lives to instigate conflict, even with her own family. Her theme nowadays is her ex, who broke up with her for how she was mistreating him, demanded that he return to her house or else said cryptic insults about his family on social media. So he met someone later on and got married, and she has a chip on her shoulder. I intentionally stay away from her, and he knows it. I don't have many hobbies, and I'm not really into going out because I'm an introvert most of the time. I've tried to talk to him about how his constant disruptions of our plans really upsets me and causes emotional distress. I'm happy going to the movies by myself, but he doesn't understand that I'm choosing to share my experience with him. Because of my job, very mentally demanding, I love spending my free time doing goofy stuff, like the arcade or the local fairs. I love having the opportunity to watch people's talents. So we went to the local state fair. I was having a blast until all of a sudden, he said that sister-in-law can't find us. What? So sister-in-law showed up with her 3 kids, angry-faced as ever, and hardly returned my greeting. Not only this, but he announced that I needed to buy him his food because he was short on money. I didn't mind, so I got him a burger. Then he says sister-in-law's kids are hungry, but she's short on cash. I'm starting to get upset because how is this possible? Who brings their kids to a place full of food and toys knowing that they won't buy anything? I ended up buying the kids, who are 5, 12, and 8, 2 slices of pizza each and a soda because at the end of the day, it's not their fault that their mom acts this way. I had Frances hand sister-in-law some pizza because I was uncomfortable making her the only person not eating. But her "thank you" sounded like an aggression because she said, "Thank you, Frances," with a cutting tone, knowing darn well that I had purchased it. I don't like their relationship because it's like he gets things for her and his family no matter what. This situation made me angry. I love buying state fair trinkets, but I couldn't do it in peace knowing the kids kept eyeing me. Francis came to show me some inflatable toys, but honestly, I was aggravated because it sounded like he was coercing me to purchase stuff for his nieces and nephew. So I tried to separate from the group. I bought 3 pieces of cotton candy, my main reason that I attend fairs, that I ate immediately. Then I bought another 4 for the road that I was putting inside my backpack when my niece, who's 12, Mandy, had a massive tantrum. She said she wanted cotton candy and started walking very fast towards me. I was mortified. I started walking in the opposite direction, trying to still be polite because I wasn't trying to reject her or anything. This got really awkward because it went from screaming to demanding. So Francis didn't say anything. He didn't ask his niece to calm down. Instead, he just said, "Oh, just give her the cotton candy. You're causing the situation." I tried to clarify that I wasn't waving anything in front of her. I wasn't aware that she was watching me. He said it was just cotton candy and to let her have it. I quickly closed my backpack and let him know that sister-in-law would be driving him back to his place as I was leaving. I did leave. This ruined my whole afternoon. He called me out for being selfish and for leaving him to ride with sister-in-law. I'm very confused about this. It's not like I let the kids go hungry at the fair. A part of me is mad that they're focusing on that one thing I didn't agree to give up. I'm very okay financially. I could have bought the kids some cotton candy, but it wouldn't have felt genuine because, 1, I put it away to avoid having the kids see it as I had no intention of buying more. And 2, I felt like I was put on the spot. I was never told that sister-in-law was showing up despite asking him repeatedly not to bring anyone because it was a me outing and to tell me the truth in case he invited someone. He's been texting me so much about this that I already suggested we break up for good, which seems to have really offended him. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk, but your boyfriend is, and his family sucks. Why are you with this guy? Your boyfriend treats you like an ATM for his family. The sooner you realize this, the sooner you can move on and find a guy who isn't a deadbeat. Not the jerk. Drop everything and help you out? Sure, I got you. I want to start this post by saying, yes, I know I should have been fired for this, and I do not recommend doing this in any service industry job. This happened several years ago while I was working as a waitress at a chain restaurant. There was this insane manager whom I had to work for on several occasions. She was young and thought that she knew everything, was quite trashy, and was hooking up with one of the higher-ups who was married, whose wife also worked at the same restaurant, but that's a different story. This manager, let's call her Mindy, was on my case about everything. I was one of the few shift lead servers who knew what they were doing, knew how to make the restaurant money, and had many customers write great reviews and say wonderful things about me. I knew how to do my job, and I knew how to do it well. Mindy always singled me out for things when they weren't even my fault. I would always just take it because it wasn't worth my energy fighting about it. She was the only person in the whole restaurant that I did not get along with. I had a great rapport with the bartenders, servers, cooks, back-of-house staff, and other managers. One day I came in to start my shift, but was quickly pulled into the manager's office by a different manager. He wanted to bring it to my attention that Mindy had stated on my past shift that I was on my phone and not working hard. This was not true. I never carried my phone on me because it was a distraction. I didn't have room in my apron, my jeans did not have pockets, and honestly, I didn't want to have it on me. I mentioned this to the manager, and he gave me the benefit of the doubt, but said he was going to keep an eye on me, as cell phone use had been becoming a major problem with several of the servers and bartenders in the past few months. One shift a few days after that was busy. I had a full section and was set with a party of 12 who all ordered beverages from the bar with water. I grab a tray, fill up the water, and hand the glassware to the server bar in the kitchen area. Once all the drinks were on the tray, I slowly started to lift it to get it situated, and it was heavy. Mindy decided that this was the best time to yell at me and tell me she needed me to run the food that was up at the expo line, where she was standing and expediting the food. I took a second to look over at two other servers who were leaning against the wall, much closer to her, on their phones. I said, "I'm a little busy. Can someone else help?" She snapped back at me and said, "I told you to do it, so you need to do it now." At that moment, I honestly didn't even care anymore. So I looked her dead in the eyes, smiled and said, "Okay," and literally dropped the tray of drinks I was holding on the ground, walked over the broken glass, crushing the cups under my feet, grabbed the plates of food, and asked her where they were going while keeping the smile on. The look of horror on her face, the phone-dwelling servers' faces, and the cooks' faces were quite priceless. Once I delivered the food, I went to my party of 12 and apologized to them and told them I dropped the tray of their drinks and I'd be right back with a new one, still with that smile on my face. Once my shift was over, Mindy pulled me into the office and explained that what I did was not okay and she was going to write me up for it, so I had to sign a document stating I understood why I was being written up and I refused to sign it before speaking with other management. There was much more discussed in this conversation, but I can narrow it all down. She said I would be fired if I didn't sign the write-up document at that exact moment. I still refused and said I would speak with the GM about it tomorrow morning on my next shift. The next morning, I explained to the GM what had happened and stated that I was working while others were on their phones, but Mindy singled me out. I also asked him to check the cameras to see the incident take place, and might I say, it was satisfying to physically see myself drop everything. After lots of discussion, the GM said there's no problem here, ripped up the write-up, and told me to continue being the hard worker I am, and I never had to work with Mindy again. My Karen daughter is having another baby that she can't afford. My daughter and her husband have recently announced their fourth baby in a small little family gathering I hosted. I know I should be excited and congratulatory, but I'm really not. I just felt exhausted the moment that she announced this. Context: my daughter and her husband aren't really well off financially, so they regularly drop off the kids with me since they can't afford daycare. Of course, I don't mind watching them, but the problem is that they'll pick them up quite late, later than the agreed time. So like I say 9, but then they come at 1. Sometimes it feels like my grandkids spend more time with me than with them. They also rely on me for money as well, but I'm not sure if the money I send them is even being used on my grandkids, as I've seen them buy new stuff for themselves after I give them money for something related to the kids. There's a lot more that I can rant about, but it just feels like it's just gonna be another kid for me to take care of, and I just can't force myself to be excited anymore. I honestly think that they should have stopped at 1. Well, my daughter noticed my lack of a noticeable reaction and asked me if I'm happy to be a grandma again. And I honestly blurted out, "Again? Really?" I didn't mean to, but she didn't take that well and said that I was a horrible person for not being excited for her and for getting a new grandchild, and the whole room just became tense after that. Me and my daughter haven't talked much since, but she still drops off the grandkids. Apparently, she's waiting for an apology from me. And while I'm hesitant, I don't want to split apart the family. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. She won't speak to you, but still uses you for childcare? Nope. You need to set some boundaries and fast. She doesn't pick the kids up on time. She finds a different babysitter next time she needs one. Yes, you're so horrible that I won't speak to you, but you're good enough to watch my kids. It sounds as though OP needs firmer boundaries, which include eliminating or at least drastically reducing the free childcare. Not the jerk. Quit babysitting and pull all financial support. If she will not speak to you, she doesn't get to use you as free childcare. Not the jerk, but it's time to play hardball. No offense, OP, but why wouldn't they use you when you offer free childcare and apparently give them an allowance? You need to teach them personal responsibility. Lack of funds? Then they need to get better jobs or take a second one. You are not their ATM. They want to offload the kids, then they need to pay for a babysitter or find a childcare facility. It's time to practice tough love or your daughter is never going to learn. You're the jerk. You have no right to decide whether or not she should be having any more kids. If you want to be some sort of monster and not help your own daughter with her finances and childcare, that's on you. But as a grandmother, your only role is to support her in any way you can and not be judging her on how many kids she has. Ever since I had my first baby, I've been judged non-stop by people I thought cared about me. As a result, I've gone no contact with most of them. I have 7 kids now, and I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. I love being a mom, and your opinion of me could not possibly mean less to me. If I could find a man who was worth a darn, then I'd probably settle down and let him play the father figure to my kids. But until I find one who's not a complete loser, I'm fine on my own. Fortunately, I qualify for plenty of benefits as a single mother, so I don't have to work anymore. I hope your daughter finds out what benefits she's entitled to, so that she won't have to ask you for help in the future since you're such a judgmental jerk. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her daughter? Please let us know. I think that last commenter's the biggest jerk of them all. How did people get so messed up? Brother ruined my wedding by proposing, so I ruined his proposal. I, 35 male, have a young brother, Todd, 29 male, who had a complicated birth and had to stay a month in the ICU. And because of that, my parents have always doted on him and almost denied him nothing, even if it was to the detriment of my sister, Abby, 32 female, and I. My brother drinks in on the attention and has on more than one occasion made himself the center of attention at either my or my sister's or a cousin's special event. Because of this, Abby and I have a strained relationship with Todd and our parents. Unfortunately, Todd met and fell in love with Lucy, who's 24, who announced her own pregnancy at the baby shower my mom held for Abby. When I proposed to my wife, Michelle, 30 female, I just wanted to elope, but she really wanted her family to be there, so I invited my family out of obligation. While out, my best man Jim, 35 male, noticed a receipt from a jewelry store slipped out of Todd's pocket. Jim confronted Todd about this, which led to an argument. Jim told me everything, and I told Todd that he was no longer going to be a groomsman because I knew he was going to propose at my wedding. Todd cried to our parents, and which led to a blowout. In my parents' eyes, since Todd never admitted that he was going to propose to Lucy at my wedding, I was unfairly judging him. I refused and brought up Todd's past behavior. My parents couldn't refute this and got Todd to agree to not try anything at my wedding. This wasn't enough to convince me to let him be a groomsman, but I warned him that if, as a guest, he'd try anything, I would make him regret it. Fast forward to the wedding, and surprise, surprise, Todd walked over to Lucy and proposed to her during Michelle's father-daughter dance and did it in a way so that everyone would notice. Cue my revenge. Jim and I had hired a woman to pretend to be Todd's side piece who cornered Todd and Lucy and claimed that she was pregnant with his baby. Todd denied this, but when she called his phone, I gave her his number and messed with Todd's phone to incriminate him. It didn't look good. Lucy threw the ring back at Todd and left in tears. When Todd saw the smile on my face, he knew that it was me, and I didn't respond to a single call or text from him or my parents until after the honeymoon. Lucy has thrown Todd's stuff out and has been denying access to their kid. Todd is furious and demanding that I clear his name. I sent him a text saying that I had no idea what he was talking about, as well as a screenshot of a bill for the wedding, and gave a vague message demanding reimbursement for half of the wedding costs. Michelle knew the whole time what I was planning and gave me the green light after Todd ruined her moment with her dad. So I felt pretty good, but now even Abby thinks that I went too far. Well, what do you think? Did OP go too far with his revenge or not? Please let us know.
Sounds like Todd messed around and found out.
Am I the jerk for telling a teacher she's being unreasonable? My son, Ollie, is a senior and on ASB. They had organized a homecoming pep rally scheduled for this Friday. They've been prepping for a long time. There's a dance routine and a teacher versus student basketball game. Last week, Ollie tripped over a chair during the night and tore a ligament in his ankle. Obviously, he can't participate in the rally. They can't really continue with the program as planned with my son out. They really tried. The teacher in charge asked other seniors if they wanted to take my son's spot, but they declined because they didn't want to look stupid doing a dance routine with 4 days prepped. That's when my 11-year-old son, Brian, said he wished he could take his brother's place. I thought about that and realized it was actually a good idea. He does a lot of gymnastics and picks up on choreography quickly. I had a talk with Ollie, who wasn't sure. I spoke to the teacher, who asked my son to do some of the choreography, and he impressed her. She then said that she would talk to the other students about Brian taking the spot of Ollie. The students thought the idea would be funny, and everyone agreed to it. My son would actually be paired with Ollie's girlfriend. The teacher told me that the rally is scheduled towards the end of the day on Friday, so Brian would have to miss 3 classes, 2 for prep, 1 for the rally. I spoke to 2, and they were fine with it. Whatever work they do on Friday can be made up on the Monday. The third teacher, language arts, said she wasn't okay with his skipping class to go to a rally at the high school. That's not a valid excuse to miss class, so she won't let him make up a test that she was going to schedule. He would have to get a 0. I told her that it's not like he's skipping school to go to the park. If 2 teachers in the high school is okay, then why can't she be? She said she doesn't play favorites. I told her it's not playing favorites, it's being reasonable. Would she just have me lie? She said of course not, but that's her rules. I said we'll leave it at that. I decided it wasn't worth this much drama, and my son getting a 0 on a test in the 6th grade wasn't going to ruin his life. I could be a jerk dad and go over her head, but I won't. She did email me today and asked if I decided if my son was going to skip class to go to the high school rally. I replied, he's skipping class because he has a doctor's appointment, so he'll make the test up per her rules. What's she going to do? Leave class to see if he's dancing in the rally? Can we please get a few things straight? I'm speaking as a recently retired teacher. 1. The school administrators, not teachers, determine what's an excused absence and what isn't. Schools have policies in place. 2. When the administration decides, per school policies, that an absence is excused, teachers must allow students to make up work. 3. It's rare to have every student in class show up on a test day. There's almost always at least one kid out due to illness or a school choir concert or something. Teachers routinely create alternate tests when they create the original test. 4. Yes, the teacher has to proctor the kids who missed the test. I spent many lunchtimes and after school hours doing this. It's part of the job. It's also why it ticks me off when people say teachers have short hours. I was there 10 hours a day, not counting the many evenings at home grading and calling parents. 5. I always hated it when parents pulled their kids from classes for extraneous reasons, but it was not my call to make. It isn't Brian's teacher's call either. OP, you should have gone to the principal first, not the teachers. I'm just about positive the principal would have given it a green light, not the jerk, except for the lying part. I'm so confused at the "you're the jerk" comments. My mother was the kind of parent who would make me go to school no matter what, and more than 10 years later, I still get annoyed thinking about it. 1 test in 6th grade is really not a big deal. Makes me wonder how old these commenters are. You're the jerk. The teacher had a test assigned for that day, hence why the other 2 teachers are allowing it has no bearing on whether the 3rd teacher was unreasonable. Making up classwork and homework is nowhere near as intensive as trying to schedule a makeup test day and time. All you did was teach your kid that it's okay to lie to get what you want and make other people's lives more difficult for the sake of your own personal gain. You're the jerk. His language arts teacher said that it's not a valid excuse to miss class and she won't let him make up the test. She's right. You had a talk with Ollie who wasn't sure, but you decided to push it anyway and you're now lying so Brian can skip class. I'm getting a sense of favoritism here. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or the teacher? Please let us know. My girlfriend had her ex over in my apartment while I was at work, so I kicked her out. Me, 35 male, and my girlfriend Sarah, who's 35 female, have been together for 4 years now. She has a son, Nathan, who's 9, with her ex, Mark, who's 36. Sarah has full custody of Nathan, with her ex having scheduled visitations 1 weekend every month. Sarah and Nathan moved in with me a little over a year and a half ago, and in my perspective, it was a little rocky at first. I've always been pretty protective of my space, so making room for 2 other people was difficult for me. When Sarah moved in with me, we agreed that the visitations for Mark would be held in our apartment as long as I'm home. The main reason I wanted this is because I don't know Mark that well, and I don't want him wandering around our apartment without me there. When we proposed this idea to Mark, he was fine with it. Now moving on to the real issue. 3 weeks ago marked 4 months since Mark's last visit, so I had asked Sarah when he was planning on visiting Nathan. My girlfriend replied by shrugging her shoulders and telling me she'd ask. She never followed up with it. So a few days ago, I asked when Mark's next visit was, and Sarah said she'd tell me when she knew. Nathan was in the living room, but had apparently overheard us and shouted something along the lines of, "Dad was here last weekend, remember?" Sarah's face immediately dropped, and when I asked what Nathan meant, she wouldn't give me a direct answer. Eventually, she ended up telling me that for the past 2 visits, Mark had been to our apartment when I was working. When I accused her of going back on our agreement, she kept telling me that this was her home too, and she could invite whoever she wanted, and that it was fine because she was here and watching. I told her that was besides the point, and she violated my trust. It blew up into a huge argument, which ended in me telling her to get out of my apartment. She packed up and left with Nathan. Last I heard, she was staying with her parents. I've gotten several messages from both Sarah and her parents calling me the jerk for kicking Sarah and Nathan out of their home for something so small. She's even been blasting me on Instagram and Facebook about how horrible I am to do this to her. It's got me thinking I might be the jerk, but I'm not entirely sure yet. Am I the jerk? Everyone sucks here. This is such a weird and controlling rule to need to supervise your girlfriend's interaction with her ex. Why on earth would visitation have to be at your place? Couldn't Mark take Nathan somewhere for a few hours? Lying about it and expecting the kid to lie was a jerk thing to do. Everyone sucks here. You for continually referring to your apartment as if Sarah and Nathan haven't been living there for 18 months or so. You even say you kicked her out of my apartment. Was it not their home too? Because it doesn't sound like you ever let them feel like it was. Well, gee, maybe he was the one paying the rent. You ever think about that? Sarah is somewhat a jerk for reneging on your agreement without discussing it with you. I wonder what Mark's visits were like though. Were you welcoming, or did you treat him like an intruder and a nuisance? Was Nathan able to enjoy his time with his dad with you there? I suspect the answer is no, and that's likely why Sarah started letting the visits happen when you weren't around. That doesn't make it right what she did, but it makes it understandable. I actually think Sarah has dodged a bullet, and hopefully she'll realize that. Living with you doesn't sound like much fun. Everyone sucks here. Going behind your back sure wasn't the right approach, but she has a point too. It is her home. And while I, in principle, understand your way of thinking, how long did you plan to keep this up? For every visit ever? Why didn't you think Sarah would keep Mark in check for the visit? I think somehow you lack trust, which considering Sarah's behavior might be justified, but what kind of relationship is this? Not the jerk. Not surprised to see so many you're the jerk votes here. This chick moves in with you, brings her son, and has the audacity to have her ex over while you're gone at work. The mental gymnastics that these people are using to justify her lies and blame you for kicking them out is beyond me. Hope you learn your lesson from this, dude. Stay away from single moms. Guarantee you she's been hooking up with her ex in your home while you were at work. Once you catch someone lying, kick them out. Liars do not stop their lying, and it only intensifies. Same thing with cheaters. It's just part of their character, and there's no way to stop them from doing it. They will always feel justified in their crap, no matter what, and they'll believe that you are the one with the problem. Social media and pop culture have created a whole generation of narcs. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his ex? Please let us know.
Bruh, if you have your ex over to my apartment while I'm at work without us agreeing about it, darn straight you're getting kicked out. Hopefully next time she finds some guy who's willing to let her and her son move in with him, she won't lie to him about this kind of stuff.
I, 25 female, told my husband, who's 26, to go live with his mom, and now we're getting a divorce. Context. We live in Utah, but his parents are Catholic. About 3 months ago, he brought up kids, even though we both got married knowing we didn't want any. My husband and I moved in together when we got married early last year, and we've been together since high school. When we first moved into our apartment after we graduated, things were great. We split the chores evenly. Although he fed and walked our dogs more than I did. Around September, he started sleeping in the guest bedroom. I'm a night shift nurse, so this isn't really totally out of character because he works as a trainer at a gym and has regular hours, but he stopped sleeping in our bed even on our days off. He's gotten more religious. I found a Bible in our kitchen with notes in his handwriting. He stopped doing his part around the apartment. Before, he would walk the dogs and feed them on the days that I work. Now I come home, and more often than not, they're not in their kennels, and I have to walk them after being on my feet all night. When I wake up, their bowls are still empty, and our one dog is so old he can't hold his bladder for that long, so he goes to the bathroom in the kitchen. The sweet boy knows it's easier for me to clean up on tile. Husband gets up early, so I don't know why this is happening. He has a long lunch break where he normally comes home to take care of them. This is especially hurtful because I make sure to do everything when I'm off work and he works. Dishes from whatever he was eating the night before are constantly in the sink or on the counter, and although he doesn't sleep in our room anymore, he leaves his dirty laundry lying around. When I confronted him, he did apologize, but he said he was under a lot of stress at work, and he felt like he needed more support here at home than what I was giving him. I'm not trying to devalue his feelings or anything, but he works at a gym. I work in an ICU. One of our favorite patients passed last week, and he never knew how much I cried that day. My work makes him uncomfortable, so I don't talk about it around him. I didn't say any of this. Instead, I asked him how I could support him more in our home, and he stated, and I quote, "I need us to start falling into our God-assigned roles." I can't say I remember much of what else he said. Essentially, it was something about him being a leader and me being a follower, and that I should do the majority of the chores. He felt like he wasn't as happy as his parents were in their marriage. This took me by surprise. Too angry to say anything else, I said, "If you want to live with someone who will cook and clean for you while you do nothing, go live with your mom." I don't know why I said it. I think I was extra frustrated because of the dog mess on the floor again. But now I'm at work, crying on my break, looking up the cheapest couples therapists. I know he's in the wrong, but did I take it too far? Is couples therapy going to be enough? Someone help me. What should I do and where did this come from? Update. We spoke when I got off work. I showed him the post, specifically the comments about cheating and cults and mental health, and he admitted that he's been seeing one of his coworkers. I wish it ended there. He broke down and cried. He confessed he's been sleeping with her and that they're trying to have a baby. I didn't mention in my post that he had changed his mind a while ago about having kids while I still didn't want any. He said I wasn't allowing him to follow God's plan, so I forced him to seek help from Hagar. This is some Bible reference that went over my head. I don't even know who this man is anymore. Not wanting kids has been a big source of friction in the past 3 months or so, but there had never been any signs that things would get this out of pocket. We went into this marriage against having kids. I know we're young, but that will never change for me. I guess I should have seen the writing on the wall. I'll spare you guys our fight. My best friend helped me pack my essentials up. She's been stalking this Hagar's Instagram. Apparently, she's a big traditionalist. Not so traditionalist to keep her hands off of a married man, but that's besides the point. Her only goal is to find a husband and be a stay-at-home mom. More power to her. Someone's got to do it. She can have him. They can pump out 6 kids with his minimum wage. I think this is my sign to start travel nursing. I'm spending a good chunk of change breaking our lease, getting away from him, and finding a lawyer. Me and my dogs will be better off at my mom's house for now. There's no way I'm letting him take the dogs. I'm going to sleep though. I haven't slept in almost 24 hours. Thank you guys for helping me on this insane journey. I'll find therapy when I can afford it. Am I the jerk for asking my girlfriend to clean 100% of our apartment? I, 30 male, live with my long-term girlfriend, who's 27 female, in a major city. My girlfriend and I live together in a major city to share costs. I only mention this to provide some information about how much rent costs. While we were both working, I paid 60% of the rent and she paid 40%, with the agreement that I would pay for all dates because I make 30% more than she does. My girlfriend has felt depressed with her career choice, so I suggested that she quit her job and take some classes to gain certifications in a career she would like. I agreed to pay rent and utilities, as well as pay for her classes and give her some spending money, $300 a month. I'm lucky in that I work at a good job, so I can eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner for free at work. I've also worked on additional projects so that I can work more hours in order to support the both of us on my salary alone. For the last 6 months, I've clocked in 60+ hours a week. When we were both working, we split chores 50-50. However, I find myself burning out during the week and unable to clean, and on the weekend, she wants to spend Saturday on dates, with us cleaning on Sunday together. We got into a bit of a row because I said that I need a day, Sunday, where I can just be alone or do something with my friends. She said she appreciates my help with her career change, but that since we both live in the apartment, we should both clean. I don't think it's fair since she's home much more than I am, and I make almost zero mess because I spend 60+ hours a week at work. She said just living in the house creates a mess and I should help clean it. How much is she studying, and is she alone all the time? OP. She takes 2 classes on Monday, Wednesday, Friday for 2 hours each class for a total of 4 hours a day. She probably studies an additional few hours a day on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and a few more hours on Tuesday and Thursday. These are online classes, so there's no commute involved. She spends a minimum 24 hours a week studying. To be honest, I don't understand why people think that she is by herself the other days. She's doing distance learning and has friends in the city she can see whenever schedules align. There's no kids or pets to take care of. More info on scheduling and chores he does. Monday through Friday, I'm not home from 8:30 a.m. to 10 p.m. plus due to commute times and work. The only mess would be towels. Edit, I wash my own laundry. I don't use any dishes because I eat at work. Saturdays we have a date, so we go out to eat. I also don't snack at home because I get home at 10 p.m. and I wake up at 7:30 a.m. I do game, but I play phone games. The mess is just general living messes. I only do my own laundry at home. Everything else I would ask her to do. I don't refuse to do the trash, and if I'm going out, I'll take it out. But I can't make the bed because she wakes up at 10 a.m. and I wake up at 7:45 so I can leave at 8:30. What he's paying for. For pay, I pay rent, education expenses, food, mostly hers, cell phone, and I give her $300. Get a cleaner. So at the current rate of spending, a cleaner would be a bit rough. It would eat into her spending money. I'm fortunate that my food and transportation costs are covered by my work, free meals and a subway card. But without that, I don't think this situation would be feasible. She's a leech. OP. I don't think that. When we were both working, she was phenomenal at her job and her course studies are going great. I wouldn't call her a leech at all, but I am feeling some burnout and I do want her to do the cleaning. How much time are you two spending cleaning on Saturdays? It takes about 4 hours total. Some of the time is dead time, such as waiting for the washer and dryer to finish. We clean the study room, the bedroom, the bathroom, and the living room. The bed sheets and such are washed weekly, and so are my clothes. I actually prefer to wash my own clothes and would do this on Saturday morning since I like to hang dry my shirts and pants to avoid shrinkage and increase their life. Couldn't she get a part-time job? OP. I'm not sure a part-time job would be worth it in regards to cost and benefit. Part of me thinks it's only another 6 months, and it would be better to have her focus on passing her certification exams the first time around, as these tests aren't cheap either. She'd only work a few hours a week, but the mental toll would be much higher than just the hours worked. Commute, scheduling, maybe a bad boss or coworkers. You should have talked about this before she quit. OP. We didn't do the math properly together. Both of us didn't think I'd need to do an additional 80 hours of work a month to pay for everything. I also didn't expect to be this burnt out from working and doing the chores, so that wasn't talked about either. Update. I asked my girlfriend if we could speak before our date night. I told her that I wouldn't expect her to do 100% of the chores and that I would continue to do my laundry and do my dishes from Sunday, but I can't do the shared laundry or the other shared chores. She said that it's still not fair since we both contribute to the mess of the house just by the fact that we both live here. I then suggested that we cut down her allowance and use that money to pay for a cleaner once a week on Sunday so both of us would be free. She didn't complain about the drop in money here, but she said that her cleaning or a cleaner doing it made no real difference because she would want to stay at the house because she couldn't trust a stranger to clean unsupervised because she might steal something. Basically, I went through a few different situations, and in the end, they all resulted in the same answer by her. So I broke up. I have 5 months left on this place, so I'm just going to transfer the lease over, pay my 5 months, and let her keep anything that's not explicitly mine, such as the PS5, my laptop, etc. Anything shared, like the bed or the TV, she can keep. It doesn't matter. I'll be out in a new place in a week. I'll get a work loan to cover this, but it'll be over. Another post with a crazy level of wealth and work disparity where the person contributing less demands the other person contribute more than they already are, resulting in them losing their sweet gig. I feel like if I had been in the girlfriend situation, just watching my partner leave at 8:30 and not return until 10, I would want to make sure everything was clean and okay, especially if all that overtime was for me. Those hours are punishing. I hate chores, but I would have found a way instead of leaving my partner with no choice but to break up. Just a total lack of empathy or understanding on her part. This reminded me so much of my situation with my ex. Same job and chore situation and everything. We broke up. I moved out and left everything for her to keep other than laptop and clothes, and left her 4 months on the lease. She had to move in with her mom after 3 weeks because she didn't want to take care of herself. Same with a friend of mine. Worked 2 jobs, 12 plus hours, paid for her school, vacation, rent. The money she made part-time was her spending money. She cheated on him, he left her. Obviously, her affair partner left her soon afterwards. She moved back home and had the audacity to call my friend and ask for a second chance. The biggest issue I saw with this was that the girlfriend saw that the boyfriend was out there burning himself out 60 hours a week just to support her in her schooling, and she proceeded to demand a weekly date, 50-50 chore split, and thinks it's okay. That's absolutely not how a relationship should work. One partner should not be sitting on their butt while the other is working this much. She couldn't even work a part-time job. I'd sooner walk off into the sea out of sheer shame and dishonor than doing that to my partner. My wife served me divorce after we returned from a family vacation. We went on a family vacation with my wife of 15 years and our kids who are 10, 7, and 5. We were having fun and laughing. We went on rides and had some lavish food. Everything was great. I was able to relax after a very long time. My kids and my wife were also very happy with it. It all started when our final day at Disneyland, my kids were having a fight about something. I was grabbing some ice cream for them, and then I heard my wife scream at them, "Why can't you just shut up?" I immediately went over there. My kids were shocked. I broke the fight up between them and they were fine. I pulled my wife onto the side and I asked her why was she yelling. She just looked me dead straight in my eyes and said, "I'm done." I didn't know what that was, but for the rest of the evening she was quiet. Even in the hotel, she only talked to the kids or said sorry for yelling. She completely avoided me. I thought things would be fine when we returned home, but after 24 hours we returned home. She served me with divorce papers. She said she cannot do this anymore. She's moving to the guest room and will slowly move out of the house. She's been trapped here now and just wants to breathe. I begged her to listen. How can she leave us like this? What have I done? I never cheated on her, never mistreated her, never belittled her. I supported her in every way. So why? I asked her if there was another man and she said no. She's just done with me because she's done waiting for me. She said she doesn't want to talk about it now. I'm hurt and sad. What happened all of a sudden that she wants out? I've always been a good provider for our family. I've never said no to her. She wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. I supported that. She wanted to go back to work after our second was born. I supported that as well. Then why now? How can she just throw away her family like that and do this to the kids? Getting divorce papers made takes a while. She's been thinking about this for a long time, my man. This was not a spur-of-the-moment decision. Exactly. It can take weeks and weeks. She's been planning this. It's not sudden, especially to her. Yeah, while it seems sudden for OP, his wife's mind was made up long ago. I can't help but feel OP isn't being honest with himself about how happy their marriage is. I don't know, maybe his wife just has a really good poker face, and if she was unhappy, she wouldn't even tell him, which doesn't really sound like a healthy marriage on its own, but that could just be her way. Maybe she just decided herself that she'd be happier on her own. Unreliable narrator. Yeah, he knows, just not prepared to expose this even to himself by writing it down. He knows. He's exposed himself in the comments and it's even worse. He's purposely acting dense and playing the victim. What did he say? Basically, his wife has all of the mental load of managing the household. Husband needs to be asked to do tasks rather than just doing them, which makes it worse for wife. Wife slowly becomes more and more unhappy, starts getting divorce papers in order, then serves them as outlined in the post. The end. It's very rare that someone says they're done out of nowhere. She already told you she feels trapped and doesn't want to talk about it now. My advice is that when she does decide to talk, you listen this time. Her usage of trapped indicates that she has felt this way for a while, feels no hope for change, and feels unheard and unseen. This is not out of nowhere. Don't be surprised, my man. This is what's happening to most guys these days. You can be the best darn husband you can be, and she'll still find a reason to leave you, take half your stuff, be entitled to alimony payments, your retirement, etc.
And you see how literally nobody on here feels bad for you? They all blame you and are making excuses for your wife throwing her marriage away for her own selfish reasons. Well, get used to it, because that's what's going to happen in court as well. These folks believe wives are magical beings that can do no wrong, and no matter what happens, it's the husband's fault. That's what these people have been brainwashed into believing, and it's what you're now finding out. Always get a prenup, or you'll regret it in 10 years when your ex-wife gets your money, the house, and half of all savings and investment accounts, and you're living in a crappy apartment while she has new guys spending the night at your house. Something needs to be done about this broken, outdated system that exploits us. Edit. Downvote me and insult me all you want. You're just providing more proof that guys who go through this do not get sympathy. Because of course, anytime the marriage fails, it's totally our fault and never hers, so she's entitled to take our wealth. Give me a break. When your racket with the local cops bites you in the rear internationally. This happened a few years ago when I was serving overseas with the US military. The location I was at was in a poorer area. There's a fair amount of panhandlers, a lot of petty crime, and just people doing stupid crap. Well, one racket that goes on in this area, and apparently in other areas of the country too, is that local cops incentivize reporting vehicles with out-of-date inspection stickers. Apparently, they give these people access to the inspection database if they think the sticker is fake or stolen, which actually does happen. If you drive a motorcycle, one of the things they tell you when you're in process is to keep the sticker in your wallet and not on your vehicle, or else it'll just get peeled off. Anyway, what these people will do if they find a car with an out-of-date sticker, or if they run the plates and find it's out of date, they will jimmy the door open, steal every single thing out of the car, and leave a note that they've taken it to the police station. The idea is that you show up at the police station to get your stuff, and they force you to pay the fine for an overdue sticker, and then give you a deadline for an inspection, or else you'll get another fine. Well, I came out to my car one morning, and lo and behold, there was a note on my seat saying that all my stuff was at the local police station because my inspection sticker was fake and I had to go get it. No, not only am I late for work, my kid is also going to be late for school because there's no bus, and I have to drive her every morning on my way. Also, my inspection sticker is not out of date, so I have no idea what's going on. Now here's the thing that was extremely problematic, was I had put my passport and my kid's passport in the glove box because I was taking them to the base to get some paperwork done, as well as grab some paperwork for my wife to apply for a new passport because hers was expired. I'm very forgetful, so I put them in the night before and made sure the car was locked. Yeah, dumb mistake. Anyway, I get to the station, ask them what the heck is going on, and then when I have them look at the inspection document that the guy had taken, which clearly stated that the car had been inspected and was current, they apologized and told me that they would give me my things back, and I had to wait there for a second. I asked to file a police report for theft, but they looked at me like I had 3 heads and told me nothing was stolen, even though somebody broke into my car and took my things. This is when a light bulb went off in my head, and this might fall into unethical category. The guy had taken 2 official US passports, which might be a problem, but probably nothing would come of it since they were turned right into the police. However, I asked him where my wife's passport was, even though hers had never been in the car to begin with. It was easy to say there was another passport and it was missing because mine and my daughter's were in there already, and she's the only other person in the household. Since my wife's was expired, it wouldn't be a big deal to report it stolen and get a new one. So I told them that I was missing a passport. They told me that whatever is there is there. I said I needed a police report because I needed to contact the US Embassy about a stolen passport, and the fact that this police station would know exactly who the person was that stole it because they had dropped off my things that morning. I've never seen someone's attitude change as quickly as that cop's attitude changed. He tried to talk me out of filing a police report, but I was pretty insistent, so I went ahead with the police report, and then I did contact the embassy and reported the passport stolen and gave them all of the information of the police station, and when I got the police report, I emailed it to them as well. Wound up getting a free passport out of all of it for my trouble. The embassy told me they were going to handle it, and from what I heard, the person who broke into my car actually got arrested and fined and was looking at additional charges because he stole foreign documents. Really would have liked to have been a fly on the wall when one of the local cops rolled into wherever he was and told him to come with him. I don't feel bad at all. Hopefully dude learned his lesson and I did not have any further issues the rest of my time there. Am I the jerk for giving a fake name at Starbucks? I, 22 male, think this whole thing is ridiculous, but my girlfriend, who's 21, is really angry at me, so here we go.
I don't like giving my real name at places like Starbucks and similar stores where they shout out your name when the order's ready. I can't tell you why. I have a normal, reasonably common name, and I feel fine enough, but for some reason it majorly creeps me out when a barista shouts my name through a room full of strangers. I guess it's just some, at least to me, harmless quirk that I have. So whenever I'm at a store where they want your name, I say it's Tom. That's literally the name I use. Nothing inappropriate or outlandish, just plain Tom. I know I am meant when they call it, as I always use the same one, so there's no confusion or anything. They yell, Tom, and I get my drink or food, and it's never been a problem until now. A couple days ago, I was at Starbucks with my new girlfriend and ordered our drinks while she sat down. I gave them my fake name as always, and when our order was ready and they shouted Tom, I went and got it. My girlfriend was a bit confused and asked me if I went and got someone else's order, which is fair enough. So I explained the thing to her and thought that was the end of it, but she got really angry. She says it's really disrespectful to lie like that, and that I'm making everybody in the store out to be creeps who will do something bad if they know my name, which is not at all what's happening. I just don't like when they yell my real name, so I found a harmless way to get around that. But she can't see it like that. She thinks I'm a pathological liar who is way too suspicious of everyone, and I need to stop. I really can't see the problem she has. It's really not that deep. I don't think I'm hurting anyone, or am I? So yeah, I'm really confused by her reaction and asking myself if I'm the jerk. After all, for some reason I can't comprehend. So Reddit, am I the jerk for giving a fake name? I guess you're not the jerk. I don't think it's disrespectful. None of the Starbucks employees will know or care if you use a fake name. But it's definitely weird that you think it matters in any way if a handful of random strangers hear a first name with no confirmation that it's actually your name. OP. Yeah, I know it's weird. I don't even think it matters, like logically, I know no one will even remember the name, but it just feels creepy to me, you know? You're fine. People should mind their own business. You can call yourself exactly what you want to. I do the same thing. I have a common name that can sound like many other names, so the confusion just adds up. So I give a name that I can easily recognize. For your girlfriend to get so worked up over this is a bit much. Good thing is that she's a new girlfriend, and you haven't invested too much time in the relationship. If she nitpicks about everything so much, perhaps you two aren't a good fit. Not the jerk. I'm wondering if she's the type to psychoanalyze everyone, but doesn't know how. Maybe she can make a Reddit account and help us out around here instead. Not the jerk. I used to work at one of those places that ask for names. A few of the older regulars whose names I did know absolutely did not want their real names punched into the system because they were suspicious of the system, and I actually enjoyed coming up with goofy fake names for them. They loved it. I wasn't upset. Most of those people working there don't know you. They don't care. They are there to do their job. And honestly, they probably think having to ask for names is silly and just another dumb rule corporate is pushing on them. Karen Squatter moves into my house while I'm gone. Now she's in jail. Santa Monica, California. I'm the owner of a 2-story house. I'd gone to Hawaii last week for a 1-week vacation with my wife. No one was at home, and it wasn't feasible for us to take 2 dogs with us, so I gave my house keys to a good friend of mine, and I asked him to take care of my 2 dogs. This would involve feeding them, changing water, and taking them out to walk 1 hour a day. So his girlfriend was in town, and she had no place to stay. He lives in a 1-bedroom condo with 2 other roommates. So he messaged me and asked if I would allow his girlfriend to stay at my home for just 1 night. I agreed, as it was just a matter of 1 night. Now, yesterday I came back and found out his girlfriend had made dwelling in my upper floor of my house. She's been staying here for 4 days. I asked her to leave immediately, but she and my friend are insisting to let her stay 1 more week because she's in search of a job in LA. I called the police. They came and said this would be a civil matter and I have to go through the eviction process. So I'm here with an unwanted stranger in my upper floor, a jerk friend who broke promises, and my upset wife. What to do, guys? Can I change locks and throw her stuff out when she's away? Cut the electricity to the upper floor? Update. So after reading all of the advice here and carefully discussing it with my cousin, we made a nasty plan. Yesterday night, that squatter girl went outside to grab some dinner with her boyfriend. Me and my cousin carefully packed all of her stuff into 3 bags, and we left it on the front porch and locked ourselves in the house. We also looked over her stuff from the window to make sure that no one stole it. Our wait was over after 2 hours when she returned. She figured it out and started pounding on our door, yelling loudly to open it. You know, typical squatter drama. We told her to buzz off and that we wouldn't open the door. So finally, after 30 minutes of constant drama, she dared to call the cops. I was nervous how it would turn out. The cops arrived, and fortunately, these were different ones than the previous night. First, they listened to her side, then they came to me. I explicitly told them that I was the sole owner of this house and I never allowed her to stay more than one night. She was not only trespassing, but also living in my house illegally without my permission. She kept saying I'd given her permission to stay there indefinitely and now I'm kicking her out. Officer asked if she had any proof of that. She claimed she had some text message which she had accidentally deleted. Now to the best part. Officer then asked her for an ID. She gave it. Officer verified it over the radio. Suddenly, they told him that this jerk had a failure to appear warrant for months-old shoplifting cases. Stupid lady was arrested immediately. All her stuff was sent to a friend's house. Officer said that I don't need to worry and they'll take care of her. I do not require any further action. So finally, I'm relieved from that squatter and she's behind bars. Pure justice. I always thought evictions were used to handle unwanted guests that were living somewhere for 2 weeks to 30 days plus. Too bad the cops didn't stick her with a trespassing charge as well as the old shoplifting charge. How often do cops call something a civil matter just because they don't want to do paperwork? I swear, that's what every single one of these civil matter situations feels like. The one thing I've learned about these tenancy laws and squatters is just take their crap and throw it outside, call a locksmith, and put in security cameras. They want to call the police, okay, go for it. She doesn't live here, she has no proof of tenancy, and she's currently trespassing. Please get her off my property now. Done. If you call when they are in, they will always take the con artist side, which they know, which is why they do it. Also, forget that friend, like he didn't know what his girlfriend was going to do. Forget them both. Am I wrong for expecting people to pay my kid? My kid, who's 9, has recently gotten into baking. She's really passionate about it, and it has sparked most of our family members to stimulate said passion by requesting her to bake small items they happen to be craving right as they're coming over or have invited us over. They're always very small things like, oh, I'd sure love some brownies, or similar. But since people are asking and complimenting her genuinely makes her heart smile, I only support it, and I don't mind paying for the ingredients. Now, one of my family members is hosting a gathering and asked my daughter to bake 75 cupcakes. They said they would take her shopping for the ingredients. She asked me if she could, and I said sure. I supervise the oven-related steps and have to be present. Afterwards, I contacted said family member to get some specifics as to allergies and other nonsense, and brought up the fact that she was so excited to have her very first paying customer. Said family member was apparently appalled at the expectation of paying my kid for hours of labor and stated that since she is a kid and doesn't have a genuine business yet, she shouldn't expect payment because taxes. I replied that if she feels that strong, she should have ordered from a genuine business because there's no way in any universe I'm going to let someone exploit her like that. She got mad and hung up on me. Now some additional info. I didn't expect a full hourly wage, just something extra to thank her for her hard work. She's been putting every cent she gets in allowance or earns towards more baking supplies. I expect she would have done the same with this money, but that's entirely up to her. If said family members decide not to pay, I'm still going to let her make the big order, pay her in full, and take the food down to a local food bank so she still gets the money and the experience. As fellow parents, how would you have approached this situation? I feel like I potentially robbed her of an experience she would have enjoyed out of personal principle. Edit. This is not a close family member. She's the kind of relative you only see at funerals or weddings. All the money that my kids earn goes to them 100%. Yes, I do pay them for the chores they do. No, I'm not trying to turn my daughter's hobby into a business. I'm only supporting and teaching her wherever she takes it. I do not feel any kind of strong emotion towards said relative. I don't dislike her at all, and we aren't American. Does your kid enjoy being with this relative? Sounds like it could have been just a fun afternoon activity with someone special while you're turning this person into a paying customer. I'd be insulted if I offered to my niece or granddaughter, whoever, that I bring them shopping for ingredients so we could do cupcakes together, and then I somehow turn into a paying customer. As for the exact count of 75, anytime I'm cooking with kids, I do so with the full understanding that I'll end up doing 92% of the work anyway. OP. She sees this person twice a year and has no relationship with her. 2. She promoted herself to customer, as according to my daughter, she said, "How would you like your very first customer?" 3. She would be baking them from home and I would be driving them to the event. The relative would not be involved. Even if she were to be, the only thing she needs help with is putting things in or taking them out of the oven. So she does 99% of the work herself. Did your kid expect to get paid? Yes, she did. The relative said, according to my daughter, "How would you like your very first customer?" My daughter isn't an idiot. Customers pay for services and goods. When she asked me if she was allowed to do that, she even offered to share the profits with me for supervising her, which I obviously declined. Sounds like you may have made a fun and pleasant experience a stressful one. As of now, she's still unaware of this. I'm going to resolve this. Either she bakes for the relative and gets paid by her, or she bakes for the food bank and gets paid by me. Update. I have sat my daughter down and explained to her that the relative did not intend on paying her, that she was welcome to do the work for free if she so desired, but that she also was allowed to decline her request. We proceeded to have an entire discussion about the differences about doing someone a favor, like a pan of brownies, and labor, like catering an event. I emphasized it was her decision and she would have my help and support whichever way she went. She ended up asking if it were possible for her to attend the event instead of receiving payment so she could see the people eat her cupcakes and brag about making them, which the relative declined because it was a child-free event and she could not make exceptions. We both found this fair enough, and she requested a set of baking pans in sizes she doesn't have yet as payment, which the relative also declined because why should she give her gifts while it was the relative's time to be celebrated? She went on to say that my kid was ruining the party by refusing to do dessert because she counted on it. My daughter was starting to feel guilty and I stepped in, gave her a list of local bakeries and at-home bakers she could contact and wished her a fantastic day, reassured my kid, and we went to go shopping for the baking tins ourselves. About 2 hours later, the relative, undoubtedly having contacted bakers and bakeries, called and offered my daughter a gift card for a local shop that sells all kinds of cooking and baking supplies. She happily accepted, and we thought that was that. The relative really stepped her game up in making up for the nonsense, and she arranged for my kid and myself to supervise to be allowed in the venue's kitchen and make the cupcakes there, as the venue owners, who also cater the venue, thought this would be a good idea. I've ordered her very first apron, and she is beyond excited to experience a commercial kitchen, and watching her heart smile makes my mom heart happy. I spent the day with my sister's best friend, and now she's telling my parents that I'm a homewrecker. So this all started yesterday when I, 22 female, had a date planned with a guy. He ended up not showing, and so naturally I texted the group chat about it. My sister is in this particular group chat. I'm guessing my sister, Sarah, who's 26, told her best friend, Jay, who's 27, about it, because a few minutes later, Jay texted me to ask if I'm okay. I told him yes, just a little disappointed since I was pretty excited to try that particular restaurant. He said that he would pick me up at noon the next day so we could go eat there. I told him it wasn't necessary, but he insisted, so I agreed, thinking nothing of it. Well, today he took me out as promised, and while we were eating, Sarah FaceTimed Jay. When he didn't answer, she called again and again. He answered the fourth call and asked her what was going on. She said that she was just checking up on us and told me to call her later. Later ended up being almost 8. Jay and I ended up spending the rest of the day together, hunting down some collectible dolls we both like and trying different dessert spots along the way. On the way back to my apartment, Jay asked me to change the music on his phone. When I opened it, I saw that my sister had called him about 30 times throughout the day and texted him across multiple different apps. Jay put his phone on Do Not Disturb after lunch, so it made sense why he didn't see the notifications. Once he dropped me off, I called my sister and asked her if everything was all right. She said yes and asked if I had forgotten to call her back sooner. I told her that I was out with Jay, so I didn't get the chance and figured it could wait since she didn't call me. She hung up, and a few minutes later I got a call from my mom. She sounded angry and told me that I should be ashamed of myself. I said sure, but why today? According to my mom, Sarah called her in tears, saying that she had caught Jay and I hooking up at their apartment. I was so confused. I told my mom that I did not, in fact, do this, and that I didn't even know they lived together. I asked her to give me a minute, and I called Jay, but he didn't answer. So now I'm here laying on my floor, wondering what's going on, and putting off another conversation with my mom. Update. I wanted to clear up some confusion. On my original post, when my mom told me that Sarah and Jay shared an apartment, I said I didn't even know they lived together. Those were my verbatim words to her, because last I knew, Sarah had a roommate and Jay lived alone. I was right, that's still the case. I wasn't clear about that, I'm bad at expressing myself sometimes. Another thing was people were wondering how Jay found out about my date, or lack thereof. And according to him, he was hanging out with a few of his friends, including my sister, and she told him about it in a joking way. Another thing is that some people are asking why I went out with Jay if I knew my sister liked him. I didn't know. Just because I talked to my sister doesn't mean she talks to me the same way. If I had known, I would have talked to her about it first, because I know from past experience that my sister is a jealous person. Anyway, last night was a doozy. Jay called me back. He said he was going to stay at a friend's because he would feel safer with company. I asked him if there had ever been anything romantic between him and my sister. He said the only thing was that he kissed her at a New Year's party at midnight because she was feeling left out. Obviously, I can't confirm if that really is the only thing. He also said that he had never even talked about moving in with Sarah, so he doesn't know why she would say they were living together. After I spoke with Jay, I called my mom again. She still sounded upset, but this time I could hear my sister crying in the background and my dad yelling for us to get over there. Our being Jay and I, presumably. Well, as I told my mother earlier, I don't like to drive at night, so I told them I would go the next morning. That also gave me the time to gather any evidence I could to prove my innocence. Jay even sent me a copy of his lease to prove that he and Sarah do not live together. I went to my parents alone because Jay has a job. As soon as I arrived, my parents started yelling at me. Just the usual stuff, that I was disrespectful, but they never expected this from me. How dare you do this to your own sister? You know she already has a hard time. Why make her life harder? My dad even called me names. That was fun. I kind of just sat there and did the math on how much faster I would be able to finish my grad program and flee the country, or at least the state. I wasn't very tuned in until my mom told me that if Sarah lost her job because of me, that I would need to financially support her until she found another one. That's when I snapped and told them that if they thought I was going to do that, then they were as delusional as my sister. Missing one day of work because of a tantrum over something that didn't even happen was not going to get her fired. My dad said that Sarah had been missing work to make sure that Jay wasn't leaving work early to go see me. I found out. My sister also told them that Jay was missing a lot of work, so he wasn't taking enough home for their bills, so they had been sending her rent money for months. I told them it wasn't true, and I showed them the lease Jay sent, where it clearly says the day the lease started and when it ends. It also has his address, which is not the same as Sarah's. My mom brought Sarah out of her room, where she had apparently been this entire time, and told her to explain herself. Sarah said that he probably got that other apartment so that he could be closer to me when he went on supposed business trips. First of all, Jay is a software developer. I don't know what business trips he would go on. Second, nice way to find out that my sister doesn't even know where I live, because Jay's apartment is almost an hour away from mine. I showed my parents that on Google Maps, and they finally started to believe me. Sarah started crying and calling me a liar. My dad told me that even if what I said was true, I shouldn't have been so hard on Sarah, and that as her sister, I should be helping her when she's having a rough time like this. I told him I wasn't a therapist, but if she ever decided to get help, I would pitch in. I left after that. There was nothing else I needed to say, and there was no point in waiting on an apology. My dad looked uncomfortable, and my mom was too busy consoling my sister to notice me leaving. I haven't talked to them after that. Sorry if you were expecting a fun update where I somehow got revenge on my sister or something crazy and petty. If you have questions, I'll answer them. Thanks for caring, though. Am I the jerk for not taking in my in-laws and not helping them with medical bills? I, 24 male, do pretty well for myself, have my own place, a stable and boring job that doesn't require much of my attention, and pays well while I work from home, have plenty of hobbies, buy nice clothes. Just in general, I have a pretty comfortable life. My fiance, who's 26, moved in when we got engaged about 2 years ago. Important context is that everything is in my name, and she doesn't pay rent, only bills specific to her, like buying the things she likes to eat with her own money, and helps with some of the utility bills. About 10 months back, my father-in-law, who's 56, was diagnosed with a pretty curable case of lung cancer, since he had an early-ish diagnosis. But my in-laws don't have the best financial condition, and these months of medical bills and other expenses might see them homeless and father-in-law without money to stay on his treatment. My in-laws have always treated me horribly and were always openly against my relationship to their daughter, to the point where they'd explicitly tell her not to bring me to family gatherings and to invite her ex. Things of this nature. And yes, she had my back and stopped attending said family gatherings, but she still loves her family and they mean a lot to her. So she asked if we could take them in and help her father with his treatment, to which I said no without thinking twice. She asked if I can't think on it for a few days, And I replied, if I think on it for a few days, I'll only be more sure of my already obvious conclusion. They're not setting foot in here, and I don't care what happens to either of them. She replied, saying something along the lines of us having the income to spare, and that is true, but around 70% of it is my income, not hers, and space, also true, and asked me if my hobbies and spending money on myself. That kinda got me annoyed since I spend a lot of money on us, not just me. Although, yeah, I have a few hobbies I spend on, was really more important than her family. To which I simply said, yeah, it is. Now, my fiance didn't blow up at me or anything. She's not one for conflict, but she called me a jerk and has been staying the last couple of days over at her parents'. Still calls me before bed every night, but is still clearly upset with me. Very upset. Am I the jerk? Edit. Since a lot of people asked, and some pointed out it could be important info, I come from a Japanese family, and her family, and her ex are all African American. Also, another frequent question is if I know why they dislike me. I don't. They won't say anything to my face, but they've disliked me from day one, and I know that they argued with my fiance because of me several times, especially in the earlier years. Not the jerk. Have you suggested that she contact her ex to help them out? I'd end it on this hill if I were you. Stay strong, brother. My daughter ruined a $3,000 dress because she was jealous. My oldest, Bethany, who's 16, has a step-sibling, Maria, who's 14, about to be 15. Bethany and I are white, while my husband and Maria are Hispanic. They've been in each other's lives since they were 6 and 7, and overall the relationship was good until recently. Maria's quinceañera is coming up, and my husband and his ex-wife took her to get her dress. The dress and alliterations came out to around $3,000. My daughter has been very jealous of the whole party. I've informed her that it's part of their culture, just like when she had a huge Sweet 16 party with her friends. I spent much more time with her to try to make her feel better about it, and I got her own, much cheaper dress for the party. The party is supposed to be in 2 weeks, but my daughter, after an argument with Maria about the TV, she scribbled all over the expensive dress and ripped the back. Long story short, everyone was upset. I gave money to my husband and his ex to try to get a new dress ASAP. I informed my daughter she will need to get a job and pay back the full price of the dress as punishment. We got in a huge argument over it, and she's saying the whole situation isn't fair and that I'm choosing Maria and being a huge jerk. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. Quinceañera dresses are not cheap, and your daughter is old enough to know better. Not the jerk. Bethany deliberately ruined that dress. She has to pay for it. If she had done this to a total stranger, would she claim that you're choosing the stranger? If Maria had ruined one of her dresses, would she just let it go? Bethany's very close to becoming an adult. It's time she realizes that that comes with responsibility. I wonder what Bethany would say after reading some of these comments, because I doubt you'll see many, if any, saying that you're the jerk. Or would she complain that you put this out to the world? Bethany needs to understand that she could be charged with a crime in different circumstances. You trash something worth that much, you can get in serious criminal trouble, and she's way too old for this behavior and definitely needs a job. Am I the jerk for signing away a house to my baby mama, even after finding out she put me on child support? The mortgage isn't her name, but she put my name on the deed when our son was born. We were pretty much in agreement that it was her house. 4 years later, I keep our son on the weekends now. 3 months ago, baby mama lost her job. She had me sign a piece of paper that said, handwritten, I no longer live at this address, because she can't get public assistance unless she has proof that we don't live together. My girlfriend, who works in child support, said that she's trying to put me on child support. Baby mama had always said that she'd never do that, but then my girlfriend showed me the statutes and I ran this by baby mama. She said she withdrew the application when she found out. Weeks later, baby mama says that she can't get mortgage assistance unless my name is off the deed. My girlfriend says that something seems off. I signed the documents anyway, but baby mama told me the signature wasn't valid, so we agreed to meet again and re-sign. The morning of, my girlfriend says, I just got an email that a letter addressed to you from DSS is on its way. I text baby mama. She says she got a call about it and was going to tell me about it this evening and says it's probably just a notice, and that if she wanted me on it, she would have done it by now. My girlfriend says she's BSing and explicitly tells me not to sign the deed over, says that I need to file for 50-50 custody. Girlfriend tells me to call DSS ASAP. Girlfriend texts me an hour later with a voice memo with a rep from Public Housing Assistance saying I do not have to be off the deed for baby mama to get mortgage assistance. I call DSS back and find that baby mama deliberately went and submitted the child support application. Girlfriend tells me to stop all contact with baby mama and that this is now a legal issue. But none of this was consistent with what I knew about baby mama. I called baby mama and she admitted to everything, but said she didn't know about not having to have me off the deed. She said she's only using public assistance until next week, and then she's revoking the child support case. None of that explained why she had to take me off the deed, nor why she deliberately put in a child support application. I stated that because I don't need to be off of the deed, I will wait to sign it over. She hit me with, "So now you're trying to withhold my own house from me?" And knowing her, if I upset her by not signing it, she would keep me on child support permanently. I signed over the house. My girlfriend argued that I shouldn't give up the only asset that may help pay off the child support one day. I asked my family and coworkers and they disagreed, saying trusting her is my best option and that it would be best to sign over the deed to keep the peace. My girlfriend said that my baby mama controls me and that I'm spineless and that I had no reason to give away the only asset I had. She even went all the way to say that she felt betrayed and that I chose to appease my baby mama over protecting our household finances. We'd been fighting all weekend, but I genuinely felt like I did the morally right thing, as well as the only thing that'll make baby mama drop the child support case. Pay child support. This is not rocket science. Also, your girlfriend is going to be fired for accessing the records of the mother of your kid for personal reasons. You sound sketchy. Your girlfriend sounds sus and insecure. But also, I don't know about everywhere, but I know in New York City that if you have this situation and apply for any kind of public assistance, they require you to file for child support. Baby mama might not have a choice, but also just pay the child support. It's your kid. Info. Did you actually contribute to the purchase of the house, or was putting your name on the mortgage a gesture of making you three a family? By contributing to the purchase, I mean either contributing to the down payment or pay more than half the rental value of the house each month. If you have not contributed to the purchase of the house and you use her house as leverage to try to deal with child support, then you are lower than the gum on the bottom of someone's shoe. You should be paying child support. You have a kid and your kid's other parent is struggling. That's what child support is for. It's crappy that your baby mama is lying to you about what she's doing. Your girlfriend is urging you to be a slime ball. Baby mama lying isn't crappy at all. Sounds like she's just trying to keep her house and get the child support she's entitled to, and is rightfully scared OP won't give her house. Lying is smart. She's protecting herself. Your girlfriend seriously needs to mind her own business. Your girlfriend is the one who actually sounds controlling and may actually get in trouble for looking at yours and baby mama's case when she has no reason to do so. So signing over a house so you can make sure your kid always has a roof over their head is a bad thing to your girlfriend? You need to look at that red flag right away. Also, your girlfriend is saying you need to file for 50-50 custody so you don't have to pay for your kid. That's a good thing to her? You need to look at that red flag right there. Your baby mama is looking out for her and your kid. You're an idiot in more ways than one. Never just sign something because someone tells you to, especially if other factors are proving what that someone is saying is false. Your girlfriend is an idiot for accessing charts she shouldn't have for personal reasons. You should be supporting your kid unless you have them 50% of the time, and then you're providing support that way. These stories always irk me. I know I'll be called a nice guy for pointing this out, but why do so many chicks have babies with these kinds of guys? No job, no ambition, long rap sheet, no values. Oh yeah, because he's hot. Meanwhile, dudes like me have jobs, cars, our own place, never been to jail, but are always denied because they just see us as friends. Guys who look like Chris Pratt have life on easy mode, and I have no sympathy for the chicks who have babies with them and end up realizing what a mistake they made. I quit my job of 6 years just to prove to senior management how useless and incompetent my manager was, and it worked. I started my last job in 2017. I was a part-time warehouse worker who over a few years was promoted into a transport admin/management role. Myself and another colleague ran our department between us, only really reporting to our then line manager if we needed support with any part of our job, our time off, etc. But other than that, he trusted us completely to run things. It wasn't without its stressful days, but we had a really good thing going. Then in 2021, the business made some changes, moved our then line manager onto a different department, and we got a new designated manager just to manage the two of us in our department. We were naturally quite bitter about it, but nevertheless thought we'd give him a chance. He turned out to be an absolute control freak and a bully. But he was strange. He could be very supportive one minute, then a manipulative bully the next. He loved poking fun out of the fact I had a car accident last year. He loved solely targeting me for the bad jobs and loved causing trouble between me and other colleagues. Then in March of this year, my girlfriend fell ill while pregnant and was forced to give birth to our son 6 weeks prematurely. It was quite an awful time, and I ended up having 3 weeks off work. When I returned, I had a mountain of work to catch up on that nobody covered in my absence, followed by me trying to catch up on it and my manager pulling me away to do other projects for him when his other 2 staff members weren't doing anything. Then, when my work was late, was forever kicking off at me that I couldn't manage my time properly, etc. Then in May, he made a major mistake and pinned the blame on me for it. It caused issues between me and 2 colleagues I had to work closely with, and I was threatened with disciplinary action. Then I just got to thinking to myself, without me running his department, he's nothing. Without me, he wouldn't even have a job. Without me, he wouldn't be able to explain what was going on with his department to senior management. How I ran his department for him on half of his salary. He takes all the glory and we get all of the grief. I had one last run-in with him over this mistake he had made and handed my formal notice in to him the following day. It was funny over those 4 weeks of serving my notice, just watching him slowly take over my responsibilities and struggling with them. Those responsibilities that he often told me, "I don't even know what you do during the day." He had to then do the horrible jobs he used to pile on me, and on my final day in June, I told my fellow colleagues that I'll give him 3 months before he either quits or gets fired. Within the first few weeks, the department massively failed their monthly audit, which sparked attention of company directors who were sent in to investigate as this had never happened before. Then, bang, a month later, I was on holiday and I had one of the senior managers ringing me and texting me asking for passwords for systems as my line manager had gone on holiday and hadn't organized anything. I ignored him because I didn't work there anymore and I was on holiday. Then he kept continuing to make mistakes. He hadn't ordered essential items, which caused trouble for the site. They didn't have a clue about the job in question as I originally was out to prove. Then a month after that, he was suspended from his duties pending further investigation as management finally realized he couldn't do his job in question. A month after that, management claims he quit with immediate effect. I think he was fired. But either way, my 3-month prediction was right, and he couldn't run that shift without me. It really is petty revenge quitting a job to prove a point, but it proved the point. Good riddance. I now run my own business. I have a much better work-life balance, earning more than I could ever dream of in that place, and life is fantastic. Would I be the jerk if I told my mom's realtor the truth about her house? I'm 28 female. My mom, who's 48, has a history of selfish decisions, but I feel like this is one of the biggest issues in my opinion. Her and her husband, we'll call him Rick, are actively getting ready to move to Hawaii. None of us, her kids, family, etc., think it's a good idea. They're both around 50, have worked minimum wage their entire lives, have absolutely no savings at all aside from a couple thousand they put away from income tax this year, and have absolutely no game plan. Not to mention, I keep hearing about how Hawaii natives do not want people moving there, and Rick is a self-centered jerk who thinks he's better than everyone, and can see him going over there and looking down on others there, and just not going over very well for them. Now to the big issue. They just put their house on the market, and I found out they purposely didn't disclose any of the issues with their home. Everyone was told to mind their own business. It's their house, and they'll do whatever they want. I think that's severely messed up. There's many smaller issues, like the connected garage's foundation is cracked all the way through, electrical problems and plugs that randomly overheat, turn off, plumbing issues, leaky pipes. But the kicker is that there's black mold all throughout the walls of both bedrooms and all throughout the floor in the kitchen. There are spots in the kitchen where if you step a certain way, your foot will squish through what's supposed to be a linoleum floor. I know how toxic black mold is, and I've heard about how ridiculously hard and expensive it is to get rid of it and how damaging it is to property. Well, my mom and Rick are aware that if it's known that they have black mold, it'll drastically lower the price they'll get for the house, and a bank may not even finance a loan for whoever would want to buy it. Or they'll have to pay out of pocket to fix it themselves before relisting the home. As I said, they work minimum wage and have no savings, so they can't afford to get rid of the mold. So they plan to clean up the walls in the bedrooms so you can't see the mold, and pray that the inspector doesn't find the mold in the kitchen floor and scam whoever's buying the house into buying a toxic, black mold-infested house. I think that's really messed up, and I know it's not really my business, but this just adds to the many problems I have with that mother of mine, and I really want to call the realtor in charge of their listing to tell them about the problems in that house. I want to make sure she can't take advantage of some poor person trying to buy her toxic house. So, would I be the jerk if I called her realtor and let them know what's wrong with the house so that whoever buys it isn't blindsided? Update. Realtor did find out the issues. Some of the price got knocked off and they did find a buyer for the house. Now for the facepalm. My mom and her husband, Rick, are trying to move to Hawaii. It's already blowing up in their faces though. My mom and I don't talk for many reasons, but before I cut off contact, I had been trying to help her plan out their move better because her and her husband had 2 mortgages on their house and minimum wage jobs with no savings whatsoever, so I was worried that if they didn't wait for a few years and save, that they would have problems. My mom would tell me that I was jealous of her and just trying to keep her here, and that I'm negative and don't know what I'm talking about. Fast forward to now. They didn't plan this out at all. They both quit their jobs already and have already gone through most of their last paycheck and garage sale money. They're supposed to be moved out of their house by the 31st so they can start closing, but they have nowhere to go. They were originally going to be camping for a bit, but now they can't. They had originally rented a storage unit to store their stuff while they went over and found a house. That's right, they didn't even secure an apartment or house before selling theirs. They also haven't even bought plane tickets yet. They didn't plan anything at all. But anyways, they ended up taking their stuff out of storage and paying for a pod to put their stuff in to send it to Seattle so they could ship their stuff over there. Again, they don't have a home yet. Well, because they haven't closed yet, because they haven't moved out yet, they haven't gotten the house money yet, and they won't until they move out and close. Well, they now don't have enough money to ship the pod to Seattle. So according to my stepdad, not Rick, I'm close with my stepdad, he's my half-sister's dad. My mom told him that she's not leaving the house until she gets the money and can ship the pod. Only they can't close until they move out. I don't know what she's thinking. Oh, and for extra ridiculous info, they haven't even looked for new jobs over there yet. They're going over there blind with no job, no house lined up, and all their stuff. They also were going to try to sneak their cat and dog over there. I just don't get it. They're going to wind up homeless in one of the most expensive high cost of living states in the country, if they even make it there at all. Am I the jerk? Girl I was dating dumped me because she said I was cheap. So I've been dating this girl for about 3 months. We live about an hour away from each other. I thought it was going great, but today she ended it. She said that she didn't want to be in a relationship where she never gets treated or where it's 100% reciprocal. She said I came across as cheap, and she felt now was a good time to end it. I've never considered myself cheap, so I was quite surprised by this. She never came across as wanting to take advantage of me. We split every dinner and every drinks date. When we got a takeaway meal, I got it 1 week and she got it another. When we did activities, such as bowling or the cinema, she paid for those things because I drove to her town. I did most of the driving because I live in a small town with no real fun activities, whereas her town has loads. I didn't ask her to pay. She offered and it seemed fair because I drove the hour and back. She mentioned that I've never bought her anything, but we've been dating for 3 months. Why would I? It's not like she got me stuff, just treats for my dog once. So it doesn't seem fair she's calling me cheap. When I pointed this out, she said that I earn more than her and she doesn't have the money to treat me, but that she did things like cook me dinner and drive to mine when she can. I asked my friends about this, and it's pretty evenly split that I was the jerk or that she was trying to take advantage of me. Some said that she was being a hypocrite, and some said that I should be trying to make a good impression. One said that I came across as a jerk. They all seemed surprised that I never took her out for dinner and paid for us both. But I'm surprised about that, because why should I pay for both our dinners just because I'm a man? I'm pretty gutted as I really liked her. So, was I the jerk in this situation? Mate, unless you were driving for 10 hours in a car that does about 5 miles per gallon, there's no way it was coming out balanced with her paying for movies and bowling with you covering gas. Yeah, he got the better end of that deal, and hopefully she finds a bit better of a boyfriend in the future. You paid for very little as per your information. Don't date someone an hour away if you're going to consider driving to see them as your contribution to the date. Even bringing flowers, a bottle of wine would have been nice. Did you show her any interest other than your presence? It's done. Listen to what Reddit has told you, learn, and move on. My dad always said, cheap people never consider themselves cheap. You guys weren't a match. Don't sweat it. There's a crazy coupon extreme cheapskate out there for you somewhere. Bowling is expensive, and there's nothing to do in your town, which makes the gas expenditure less generous. Kinda cheap, bro. Am I the jerk for wanting to use my girlfriend's phone? We've been dating for about 3 months and recently started to stay at each other's places. About a week ago, when we were in bed and about to go to sleep, she asked if she could use my phone to finish a show she was watching because her phone's battery was low and she forgot her charger. I handed her my phone, told her the code, then turned around and went to sleep. Since that night, she regularly uses my phone to watch her shows and movies because my phone is better than hers. Last night, we were out to dinner and I left my phone in the car. Since everything has been happening all around the world, I've been keeping up with the news. While we were waiting for a table and I didn't have my phone, I asked her if I could use hers to check on the latest news. She asked me where mine was and I answered I left it in the car. She suggested I wait until after dinner or go and get it, then nothing but silence. I was confused and things got very awkward to the point that the other people in the waiting area noticed. The awkwardness lasted through dinner because I was still confused and she was angry. After dinner, as I was driving home, she texted to tell me I was a jerk to put her in that situation in public and that I should have accepted her hints before she had to say no. I didn't see the big deal, but she's really upset with me and said that I have a lot of making up to do. Was I wrong to ask to use her phone after she's been using mine whenever she wanted? Not the jerk, but huge red flag. She has stuff on her phone she does not want you to see. Another guy, probably. Or she thinks OP wants to check her stuff, control her, etc., which is also a red flag. She doesn't trust OP and has double standards. If she didn't trust him that bad, why would she still be in a relationship with him? No, odds are she's cheating. Not the jerk. The reason she's using your phone is because she's snooping, man. She feels guilty for what she's hiding, so her mind is telling her you're probably doing the same thing. So she's looking for evidence to ease her conscience. It's a form of projecting. Sorry, man, you sound like a nice guy. Not the jerk. I would ask her why she is so against you using her phone if she uses yours. I think it's normal to use each other's phones in a relationship. Info. Was she currently using her phone, or were you two chatting to pass the time? The situation you described is wanting to use her phone to pass time while you waited, which meant she wouldn't have her own phone to do just that and would be left bored without even you to talk to. Everyone is jumping to she's hiding something. This is unfair since she uses your phone, but this situation is different from her using your phone in bed while 1, you weren't using it, and 2, you were going to sleep anyway. Yeah, this is what stood out to me too. She uses his phone to watch TV in bed. He wanted to use her phone to look at something non-urgent while they were out to dinner. It's not the same. Coworker accidentally took my lunch home and never brought it back. I'm absolutely floored. People really aren't crap these days. I came into work 2 nights ago and put my lunch in the fridge. My coworker was leaving for the night and was taking the next 4 days off. As I was working, she grabbed my bag of food thinking it was hers and left. I later get a call from her and she told me that she accidentally grabbed my stuff and will bring it back the next day. I was a little agitated because it left me out of luck for the night, but I had tuna fish and crackers stashed elsewhere, and so I had that for lunch that night. The next day, I call her to remind her to bring my lunch because I had an expensive sandwich, yogurt, and cup of fruit in there from a quick stop at the store. She said that it was no problem and she'd bring it in. I get to work last night and the girl never even stopped by to bring my food, and I doubt she'll bring it tonight. Now my expensive sandwich is probably soggy and gross. My fruit is probably extra ripe and I'm livid. She couldn't even fix her mistake. That lunch cost me money and it's been 2 days now. I can't believe how people really don't give a hoot these days about other people. Had it been me, I would have brought the lunch back the same night. Update. My coworker came in this morning. I was ready to speak with her about my lunch. As soon as she walked in, she saw me and then proceeded to walk past me, avoiding eye contact. There were several coworkers around and I didn't want to call her out and make a scene in front of everyone. So I stuck around, walking past her several times until she addressed it. She never did. So I waited until she walked into a room alone and I followed right behind her. At this point, I no longer wanted my lunch. I just wanted to know what possessed her to take my lunch and never bring it back. So I asked her about it. She tried to play dumb and told me that she did bring it back. She said she handed it off to a certain coworker and left. I knew that was a lie because that coworker had said that she hadn't seen her. So I called her bluff and I told her that I will ask that coworker where she put it. The girl came clean. She ate my lunch, y'all. That was all I wanted to know. I told her that she owed me $15. Her face dropped. She was broke. I just shook my head and told her to forget it. If she was that hard up to jack my food and lie about it, and especially lie on a coworker, then she can keep it. I'm not about to start a war over a $15 lunch. I used to respect her as a coworker, but now I look at her differently. She's a liar and a thief. Now I'll lock my stuff up from her from now on, and if she pulls this crap again, I'll report her. Absolutely not saying this is an excuse, but something must really be going on for her to take someone else's lunch and just eat it. Like, I don't understand what possesses people to do things like that. It's really trifling. Actually, nothing could be going on. She could have just done it because... OP. That's why I dropped it, because I figured that she probably was going through something. If she had asked me for my food and told me she was having a hard time, I most likely would have given it to her. She really didn't have to take my stuff. It's the fact that she lied on our coworker. That's what kind of scared me. Okay, time to let it go. You're bigger than this, and you have more to consider. A hungry person ate your lunch. OP. I'm already letting it go. That's why I haven't responded to any more messages in the last 4 hours. The girl already ate her lunch that day, and then took mine at the end of her shift. She must have been hungry, huh? Once again, it wasn't about the food. It was the total disregard for another person that was also hungry, and the crazy lies that came with it. Please don't tell me what I need to be feeling.
Karen tells me how to raise my kid. I, 24 female, have a 3-year-old son named Cass, who's the light of my life. He's a real sweetheart, and if he had it his way, he'd be carried around in my arms all day long and only put down when we come across a cool bug. He doesn't talk very often. It's something that I was worried about in the beginning, because as a young mom, I worried about almost everything. But the pediatrician told me that he'll likely become more talkative over time. I'm currently looking into speech therapists just to see if that will help a bit, and we're currently learning sign language too, so Cass can switch to that when he doesn't feel like using his voice. He's such a smart kid, and he's so curious about everything. All he ever wants to do is explore and learn about new things. I'm so proud of him, and I love being his mom and getting to see the world through his eyes. My mom, 50 female, doesn't like the approach I've taken to my son's tendency to not speak very often. There have been a few times where he'll clearly be asking for something and she'll refuse because he isn't using his voice. It's one of the main reasons why I never ask her to babysit, because it bothers me when she does that and I stop it every time. We were all at a restaurant with my stepdad, 55 male, my stepbrother, 30 male, his wife, who's 30, and their son, James, who's 4. When it came time to order, I read some options out to Cass and he signed yes for the meal he wanted. James spoke to the waiter on his own. When the waiter walked away, my mom got upset with me. She said that because I'm the parent, I need to tell Cass to get over his stubborn attitude about speaking, and that his refusal to do so is ridiculous. My stepdad then expressed concerns about the fact that James was saying full sentences by 2 years old, but Cass is 3, and he'd only ever heard him say about 5 words. I told them both that I didn't appreciate them trying to have that conversation with me in front of Cass, and at a family lunch. But then my mom said that if Cass had an issue, he should use his voice to tell them that, instead of relying on me to do it for him. I ended up flagging the waiter down and asking for my part of the bill, and if I could get the food to go, because I didn't think this was fair for my son to have to sit there and listen to them talk about him like he couldn't even understand what they were saying. Once I paid and got the food, we went home. My mom texted me later saying that I'm doing my son a disservice by not making him speak, that it was rude of me to leave lunch like that just because I didn't like the way the conversation was going, and that it speaks to my immaturity. Truthfully, if I had pushed him to do it, I know he would have verbalized what he wanted, but he clearly felt more comfortable signing, so I didn't feel the need to do that. Regardless, was it an immature/jerk move to leave like that? Edit. Cass is fully capable of speaking. He has said a full sentence before. He just doesn't talk very often, and especially not in front of other people or in public. Like I said, I've spoken to his pediatrician. I'm currently looking for speech therapists, and I've been thinking about getting him assessed for a while now. I'll just have to bring it up to the doctor. Cass uses sign. He has vocab cards and flashcards, and he already knows how to spell all of his favorite words. We work on his words all the time. It's one of his favorite things to do. No, the biological dad isn't involved. It's just Cass and me. Edit 2.
I don't mean to sound offensive or anything, but please read the first edit before telling me what I should be doing for my son. I've spoken to his doctor multiple times. I'm looking for a speech therapist. I've been looking into getting him assessed. I offer him multiple different methods of communication. I encourage him to speak when I know he's comfortable to do so. Also, he knows more than 5 words. My stepfather just stated that he's only ever heard Cass say about 5 words. Cass has a large vocabulary. He just doesn't verbalize it often. Absolutely not the jerk. I have a kid who's on the autism spectrum and has selective mutism. The situations you are describing sound so familiar to me, and the absolute worst thing you can do is try to push the issue and force them to talk. Not only will it not work, it can make the issue worse. You're doing right by your child. Your mother is being an ignorant jerk. OP. I've actually been thinking about getting him evaluated. If he is on the spectrum, I want to be able to accommodate him in whatever ways he might need and learn as much as I can to make things easier for him. It's definitely worth considering getting him assessed. Maybe it isn't autism, but if you go through the process, then at least you will know and maybe gain a better idea of what's going on and how best to support your son. Sign language is a great tool to use to assist in communication when they're unable to find words, regardless of any potential underlying concerns. It sounds like you're doing a great job as a parent. Not the jerk. You're an excellent mom. Your mom, however, is a total jerk. You're already a better mom than you ever had. You're a rock star for not taking their manipulation and judgment. Not the jerk. This is why I went no contact with my parents. They never stopped telling me how I should be raising my kids. The way I see it, if French fries and chicken nuggets is all they want to eat, then just let them eat it. At least they're eating something. I couldn't stand being forced to eat steak and veggies growing up, so I would never make my kids eat it. My boomer parents flipped out about the language my kids used. What am I supposed to do? Take their phones away so they can't learn certain words that might upset people? Same thing with bedtime. I hated having to go to bed at a certain time, so I decided early on my kids would go to sleep when they chose to. They still usually go to sleep by midnight, which is when I go to sleep too. I homeschool all of them in a natural way, so we wake up when our bodies tell us to, which is usually at about 11ish, and then we go for our morning walk in the woods. I don't teach them math and science, but I teach them the natural ways of life. The way I see it, I never actually used any of the crap they taught me in school, so I don't waste time teaching my kids any of it either. I teach them about plants and animals, love and light, what our roles are as light workers, and how it's up to us to light the path for all of the fools like my parents who are lost in the darkness. My parents will never get to have a relationship with my kids because their outdated beliefs make them monsters in my eyes, and I want nothing to do with them. There's a reason my kids need so much therapy, and it's not because of how I've raised them. It's the darkness that surrounds us. But as a light worker, I will never surrender. Well, who do you agree with? OP or Grandma? Please let us know. Am I the jerk for uninviting my sister-in-law and mother-in-law from everything? I'm 7 months pregnant with my first kid. The baby is also the first grandchild and nephew of my husband's family, which everyone is excited about. I lost my mother and father during lockdown, and being an only child, there's not much of my family. Since the passing of my parents 1 year ago, my husband's family has welcomed me with open arms as part of them, and I've become very close to my mother-in-law and sister-in-law. I always wanted to have a gender reveal, and I trusted my sister-in-law to organize everything about this. With 3 days to go before the party, I started to receive messages from all my husband's relatives and even close friends congratulating me on my baby being a boy. I went to ask what happened, and my sister-in-law confessed that she let it slip to my mother-in-law, and she told everyone that we were having a boy because she couldn't hold it in and it took proportions beyond what they imagined. Nobody called me to tell me this. The party was canceled and I was heartbroken, as well as extremely hurt by the two of them. Usually they accompanied me to the ultrasound, shopping for the baby's room, and my mother-in-law would stay at the time of delivery. But after this breach of trust, I stopped inviting them and asked them to respect my boundaries when they pressured me to go. Honestly, I didn't even send them the baby shower invite because I really avoided contact with them as much as possible because everyone knew before me that it was a boy. My husband started complaining that I was pushing them away because of a mistake that could happen and that I was being harsh. Yesterday, he brought this up, and when I said that I still didn't feel comfortable with them, he said, "Soon you'll tell me that my mother won't be able to go to the birth." I think my face showed my response, and he started saying I was being too hard on her because she was just excited and blah blah blah. I had my limit and said, "If you keep pushing me, It won't just be your mother who won't be on my labor. So either stop or you won't be there either. He started to say that I was crossing lines and that he had a right to have this moment. I was taking this with them too far. He slept on the couch and isn't talking to me more than necessary. Am I the jerk? Well, many are saying it's just a gender reveal. I honestly don't care for that, and I think it's tacky. But my mom was the type who liked and loved it, and she always dreamed of having grandkids. She said she was made to be a grandmother. She can't meet my son or even know I'm pregnant, so I wanted to do something tacky that I don't care for her, not for me. Everyone knew the importance and the reason. I always wanted to have a gender reveal with my mom there, and I didn't have either. Extra. Let's go to some points. At no time did I say that I would never approach them again, but right now I don't see myself doing that. I already have grief, pregnancy hormones, and day-to-day stress to deal with, so I don't want anything else to bother me. Obviously, I want my husband to be at my childbirth, but it's a lot of stress. He brings this topic up all the time, and I doubt he'll stop even at the time of my delivery trying to convince me. Even if he goes, if he says anything about his mother coming in, I'll ask him to leave. Your husband started complaining that you were pushing them away because of a mistake that could happen and that you were being harsh. This wasn't a mistake. This was a choice. Your sister-in-law made a choice and told mother-in-law. Mother-in-law then made a choice to tell everyone else in the family. Your husband is making the choice to pressure you into things, which is leaving you to make some choices of your own now. You are allowed to make your own choices. Nobody, not even the husband, has a right to be in the delivery room. May seem harsh, but it's true. The person going through the procedure has the choice of who gets to be in there. Birthing a child is not an all-access pass for everybody else who wants to be there. It's not a spectator sport. It's a medical procedure to get a little human out of another human. Not the jerk. Your sister-in-law slipping could have been an honest mistake. Your mother-in-law spreading it around was a concise choice. You may be going a little too far with your sister-in-law. Again, possible accident. But your mother-in-law made her choice and is now dealing with the consequences. Not the jerk. OP. About the slip-up, that's okay. But from what I understand, it happened the night before, and at no time did she come to talk to me about what had happened. I found out from others the gender of my baby, and I went after her to ask. If she'd let it slip and called me to let me know sometime after what she did, I wouldn't have been so upset. I think anyone would be upset. You can't unring a bell. You're still grieving your parents. You are happy and sad at the same time. It's confusing. I got pregnant with my son within a month of my father passing from lockdown. Baby is almost 1.5 now, and he's so amazing. I still get heartache, though, about my dad not being here and not meeting him. So the gender reveal was special to you because you were doing it in a way to connect with your mother. Tell mother-in-law and sister-in-law, I'm grieving my parents. I miss them so much, and it's hard knowing they'll never see me as a mother and never know the baby. The only reason I wanted a gender reveal is because it's something my mother would have loved, and you ruined it. It hurts because I'll never get it back, and my chance to feel close to my mom is gone. I need some space. I hope I can feel the same closeness to you as I did before this happened. That's what I want, and I want my baby to have a life with extended family in it. I'm not ready. I'm so sad. This is how I feel. Please, let's stop talking about it. Please stop talking to husband about it. I need his support. I'll reach out when I'm ready, but for now, I need to handle things on my own. Karen demands to pick apples from my yard. I work from home, and today I saw a woman who I didn't know knocking on my front door. When I went and answered the door, I was in the middle of a work Zoom meeting that I was co-leading, and I was a little irritated because she kept ringing the doorbell until I would answer. The woman told me she was driving by my house and could see my large apple trees in my backyard filled with big apples. She then asked if she could come into my backyard to pick them for herself and take home. I explained that it wasn't a good time as I was working. She dismissed my words and further said she wouldn't bother me, but she wanted me to let her into my back gate that I had locked, and she would just pick the apples for herself to make a jam while I worked. I felt she was being pushy and not listening to me, so I told her again, no, it wasn't a good time. Again, she proceeded to interrupt my words and tells me she was driving by randomly, so she might not be on my side of town again, so it worked best for her to pick them now. At this point, I'm worrying about my meeting and getting irritated, so I tell her she can pick them if she gives me $50, almost to appease her or make her go away. She gets very angry at my offer and starts to yell on my porch that I should give them to her for free because there's no way I can eat all the apples and they'll probably go to waste or rot in my yard. She yells at me that she was doing me a favor by taking the apples, and I should actually pay her. I was kinda dumbstruck at this point, that this strange woman was yelling at me now for not letting her onto my private property during the workday to take things from my yard for free and getting mad at me for telling her no. I again tell her if she wants to pay me, I'll let her do it, but she can't do it for free now. She ends up losing it and huffs off to her car while telling me I was selfish and greedy. So, am I the jerk for not letting a stranger come into my backyard to pick food for free to take it home without paying me for it? Not the jerk. This was an entitled crazy person. You'd have been taking a big risk if you had said yes, because letting a crazy person onto your property can lead to bigger issues. OP. This was my thinking at first. I didn't know her and she was a stranger. I'm not someone that would randomly knock on someone's door, so for me it seemed out of my comfort to begin with. Not the jerk. You don't owe anyone free things. Owning something means you have complete control over the use and distribution of it. If she was polite or offered to split what she picked with you, maybe. But her demanding your property just makes her an entitled jerk and nothing else. Not the jerk, but you might be the jerk to yourself if this is an example of how you say no to people. No is the entire answer and doesn't need to be followed up with anything. She asks, you say, "Oh, no, have a great day," and close the door. There was no need for any further conversation. Am I the jerk for telling my friend it's her fault for getting married and having kids late because the world won't wait on her now? I, 39 female, have a 6-person girl group since college, 37 to 39, and that includes Mary, who's 38. We've been close throughout the years and have been at milestone events for each other. Mary just had a baby and is completely fitting the crazy new mother stereotype. In college, Mary had always been someone who had to make it known that she was unique and different from the rest of us, which wasn't as draining then as it has become now. For starters, all other women in our circle got married between the ages of 22 and 27, and we all have multiple kids. So the 5 of us were able to experience those milestones alongside one another, and we got closer as we shared similar lifestyles. Mary was very adamant on not settling until her 30s because she wanted to travel and have different experiences, which we all supported. Regardless, she would continue to make comments about how she's so lucky, unlike us, because we're tied down with husbands and babies. I think this is where she grew resentment towards us because we were in different places in life, and she was upset we couldn't have our group be similar to how it was in college. Then in our mid-30s, it became a whole saga of she's getting older and can't find a husband because all the good men are married or divorced with kids. When she finally got married, many could not attend because it was a destination event and child-free during lockdown. This caused a fight because she said how she was there for us during our weddings, but we couldn't put aside 1 week for her. We had all told her how we wished we could, but it simply was not financially feasible and didn't logistically work out with our kids. But she refused to hear us out and was simply so inconsiderate about our lives and families, saying we were horrible friends. Now, Mary just gave birth to her first baby and I was very excited for her. The only issue is that she moved from our state to a very remote place that's only accessible by a 6-hour car ride. Her baby is 6 months old and none of us have been able to go up to visit her. I think she's been having a wrong idea of what a village is and has essentially demanded in our group chat that we come up for the holidays and help her out because she's having a hard time adjusting to mom life. But this would entail we all take a week off, arrange childcare, figure out transportation, and book hotels during the holidays. It's gotten to the point where she's posting cryptic messages on Facebook bashing fake friends who won't be there for her. As much as I wish I could, I cannot physically support her in the way she needs me to in this stage of life. It would have been completely different if she still lived in our city and this was earlier in life when we had less commitments and priorities. So I told her this, and that if she was hoping for this big village and constant support, she should have thought about that when planning out her life because we can't all just pause our lives for her. So, am I the jerk? I have to ask, has she provided a lot of support to the group? Was she there for your weddings, which may have made difficult demands on her? Has she provided time and resources for the group's kids over the years, such as babysitting and the like? Edit. I ask because, as the childless one in the friend group, I'm often expected to be ride or die, but when it comes to returns on the favors, sorry bro, like it's just too hard with the kids, comes up a lot. Sure, if some of those stories were told, I'd look like an entitled jerk. P.S. I'm absolutely ride or die in general, but some people are seriously ungrateful. Right. I get the vibe that OP thinks that Mary didn't have to put effort and pause her own life to attend their weddings and help them, as she was unmarried and childless. Mary could have made a lot of sacrifices and efforts to attend their weddings and help them out, but now these friends won't even visit her? OP claims she can't put her life on pause, but has she thought about the fact that her friend might have done so for her? I think Mary's wrong for being rude about your life choices, but doing the same thing makes you no different than her. Edit. Not talking about the destination wedding. It's completely understandable that OP couldn't attend that, but can't she visit her now that she's had a baby? You're the jerk. You should have thought of that a long time ago. It's such a sick move. Like what? Is she supposed to get a time machine? This shows a ton of resentment for her different life. This post is so one-sided and demonized this lady to such a massive extent that I struggle to believe that it, or at least many of the details of it, are true. Every choice your friend makes goes wrong in a way you show some schadenfreude about in your writing style. My friend delayed getting married and then complained about all the guys being married. Really? Yeah, your friend sounds like a jerk. So do you. You obviously went down different life paths and resent each other for it. Everyone sucks here. Your friend is delusional for her demands, but this has nothing to do with your timelines. If she had kids when you did, you would have had your own kids to take care of. If anything, your kids are now around 10, so it should be easier to take a week off. The issue is that she lives too far away for you to help support her. It was as rude for you to shame her for having standards and living her life as it was for her to shame you for not being able to attend her wedding. If you want to be in her life, I hope you send her baby gifts. If you don't, no harm, no foul. You're the jerk. You were once the typical new mom, and you had the support of your friends. Mary went about things a different way, and she deserves ridicule and abandonment for that? You sound smug at that your friend is struggling now. That's not a good look. You're the jerk, and the way you're describing your friend is rude. Not everyone is lucky enough to find their person early on in life. Ever thought about that? Everyone sucks here, but I'm leaning more on you than her. Maybe I'm a bit biased because my plan was always to get married and start my own family by 25. But guess what, OP? Life doesn't care about your plans. Am I the jerk for refusing to return wedding gifts to my mother-in-law after my husband's passing? My husband passed about 3 years ago. We were together for 9 years, married for 4 years at the time of his passing. He never had a great relationship with his parents, and he was very vocal about that to all of our friends. My husband and I kept our finances very private and didn't share much with his parents, as my husband did not want them to be involved. His parents are decently well off and can provide for themselves. We would openly share finances with my parents, and during the term of our marriage, we have taken financial help from my parents when needed, but we have never asked his parents for help in any way. My husband and I also had a home that we purchased together while we were engaged. I had some legal issues, and his parents did have to sign some documents as we did not have a living will. They hesitated, and his mom kept making snarky comments about the car I drive and shoes I buy. It was resolved eventually, but I think the process just gave me a bitter feeling. His parents waited to see if their names were listed as beneficiary for any accounts we had, and after it was confirmed that they were not, they stopped contacting me. Last time they spoke to me was 2 years ago. I've started to see someone new over the past year, and they are clearly not happy. It's become a, "why should she have anything from our son?" mentality. I also lost my mom about 6 months ago. A few weeks ago, his parents called and demanded I give them all the wedding jewelry back that was received for our 2017 wedding, as it is not mine and belongs to his mom. Nothing given from any guests or his parents during the wedding was family heirlooms or passed down jewelry that would have sentimental value. They were just gifts from those who attended our wedding. They didn't even show up to my mother's funeral or call me. They're also claiming that the home we had isn't even mine, as their son put the down payment on it. Untrue, as my parents had helped us put a large amount of the down payment for that home, but my husband never shared that with his parents since we never wanted to rub it in their faces. They also think that their son funded everything and our entire lifestyle, which is another lie, as we had built our life with money that was made by both of us, not just him. In my perspective, I was married to their son. We both worked, built a life together, and any gifts given to me during my wedding or things purchased between money that their son and I made is not theirs. His mother has been harassing and calling my family, and it's been non-stop comments, to the point where she questioned my upbringing that my deceased mother gave me. All my family members think they are disgusting to do this to their son's widow, but it also gets awkward as we're trying to be mindful that they lost their son. My heart still goes out to them for their loss, as I can imagine that they are also grieving, but I'm just confused. Time to go no contact. No kids for old mother-in-law to claim, so she has no claim on your life. There is now no reason to stay in contact. If their love for you does not continue because their son passed, then you would not be in the wrong to cut these people out of your life. You owe them nothing. OP. This is 100% how I'm feeling now, and that's why I blocked them, and my family has done the same. She's taking that as a lack of my upbringing, but it's about time I protect myself and put my mental health first. Not the jerk. Good grief, your in-laws sound like a nightmare. I would get in touch with the lawyer to see if you can get a restraining order on them. I'm sorry for your loss, and I hope this gets resolved quickly. OP. Yeah, they've shown me how bad of a nightmare they can be as soon as their son passed. But of course, they make me seem like the nightmare to everyone else, unfortunately. Thank you, I have contacted a lawyer and spoken about a restraining order. The issue is they reside in a different state, so it's a bit challenging to maintain the restraining order over state lines. But lawyer was able to confirm they have no legal right to ask me for anything. Am I wrong for uninviting a friend because she doesn't approve of the gift I made for my boyfriend? At the end of the month, it's my boyfriend's birthday. He's 30. I, 27 female, planned a dinner with some friends to celebrate. I'm a very artistic person, and I've decided to sculpt him a realistic heart as his birthday present. For some context, my boyfriend spent most of his 20s in the hospital. He was extremely sick and had to have open heart surgery. Thankfully, he's doing much better now, but I understand that this was a major part of his life, and that's why I want to incorporate it into his present. A few days ago, I told this to a mutual friend I'll call Claudia. I could tell she wasn't a fan of the idea straight away. After some coaxing, Claudia said that it's insensitive to bring up his heart issues on his birthday. I think it's actually a good thing to do because I'm showing him that no matter what he may face, I love him. The sculpture also has a deeper meaning of me not just giving him a literal sculpture of a heart, but a metaphor for me giving him my heart. Claudia thinks that because I didn't know my boyfriend while he was going through this, and she did, that she has a better understanding of what my boyfriend will think of the present. Obviously, I disagree. We were going around in circles, both of us were getting frustrated, and she wasn't budging on her stance, so eventually I said it's probably not a good idea for her to attend the dinner. I don't want her negative opinion on my gift to ruin the mood of the dinner or upset my boyfriend. Claudia was in shock and had some choice words, but left after that. My boyfriend brought it up today that Claudia said she isn't allowed to go to his birthday dinner, and that when he asked why, she told him to ask me. Obviously, I didn't tell him because that would spoil the surprise of what his present is, and so I tried to downplay it. I know this will all come out eventually, and that I will have to face Claudia again at some point, probably in front of our friends. So before that confrontation happens, I want to know if I'm in the wrong. What does your boyfriend think about Claudia not being at his birthday dinner? OP. He was disappointed and curious as to why she's not going. Then when I refused to expand further on it, he got concerned that something serious went on between us. You're not wrong for uninviting her. You had to coax her into saying how she felt. Based on that, it seemed like she could have kept her comments and feelings to herself for the party. By uninviting her, you have now added negativity to the party anyway, so now your boyfriend is left wondering what happened. OP. Okay, you're right. I guess I went too far by uninviting her. I'll text her and re-invite her to the dinner. Update. I've apologized to Claudia over the phone and I re-invited her to the dinner. I think I let my own insecurities overshadow the disagreement, and that's why I opted to uninvite her. The bad decision on my behalf, I know. She accepted the invite and apology. Claudia asked again about the present, and I told her it's not something for her to worry about, which I think is a fair statement to make. As many of you suggested, I also went into more detail and told my boyfriend that Claudia and I argued over his birthday present. I didn't tell him what exactly it was, but told him Claudia didn't think it was a good present. I disagreed, and about the argument that followed. He was very understanding, but wants to know more. Obviously, I can't tell him too much, because that would ruin the surprise of what the present is. Also, a few of you thought I was going to give him the heart sculpture during the dinner, which I was never going to do. I'm planning on giving it to him beforehand, but I know it will be brought up during the dinner, and I feared that being a topic of conversation would give Claudia the opportunity to voice her opinion on it. Afterwards, I asked my boyfriend what he thought of a present which revolved around his health. He's very good-humored and asked if I was searching the black market for a new heart for him. He's apprehensive about it, but I think that's because he's scared I'm going to sign him up to some fitness regime or book him a scan for his birthday. I'm still going ahead with my sculpture as I think it will be a nice surprise as well as my original reasoning. You're 100% insane for giving such a tacky gift. His reaction alone screams that he's uncomfortable with the idea. Stop. You're going to implode your own relationship with this horrid idea for a gift. Get him concert tickets and burn that tacky sculpture that literally means nothing good to anyone but you. Team Claudia. OP. The reason I've decided to make a handmade gift is so I could avoid giving him a tacky gift. I'm going to have a long talk with him about it before I give him the gift, and I will also get him another present too. Although I do think the team comment is unnecessary and, dare I say, tacky. Update 2. A few people wanted me to update after my boyfriend's dinner, so here I am. As many of you left some nasty, although well-deserved in some cases, I'll admit, comments, I was pretty upset in the days leading up to his birthday. My boyfriend saw how upset I was, and so I explained the entire situation to him. I told him about the sculpture, the full extent of my argument with Claudia, and I even showed him the post on here. He was quiet while I was showing him your comments, but he was never angry at me or anything like that. He was neutral until he knew everything. Afterwards, I gave him the sculpture. He took a lot of time looking at it, and I explained the meaning behind it so he would understand that my intentions were pure. He did a joke that I could have shown him that I love him by buying him a PlayStation 5 instead of sculpting a realistic heart, but he was actually very appreciative of the amount of work and effort I put into it. He wasn't exactly thrilled with it, but he was very complimentary, so I'll take that as a win. I should mention that this all happened the day before his birthday, so no, I did not bring the sculpture to his birthday dinner and unveil it there like many of you presumed. Just to note, I never said I was going to do that. Also, I got him AirPods too, so the sculpture wasn't the only gift he got for me. The dinner went off without a hitch. On our way over to the restaurant, my boyfriend asked if I was going to apologize to Claudia in person, which I did immediately upon arriving. She was fine with it and made no issue, and said she was actually glad that I felt as though I could tell her about the sculpture in the first place. A lot of you accused me of having a problem with Claudia, and after some reflecting, I do think I'm insecure about certain aspects of her friendship with my boyfriend. This is something I'll work on going forward. The sculpture was not mentioned at the dinner, nor did I bring it up. At the end, Claudia and my boyfriend walked out together to presumably talk about it. I walked out with some others because I'm not actually a controlling or horrible girlfriend, and I have no problem giving them their space. Before we left, they hugged, and he thanked her. Before you start, he thanked everyone for attending, so this wasn't out of the ordinary, and we both went to the cinema together. Happy ending. And just to add, I will be taking on a lot of your feedback in my previous 2 posts, and will be trying to better myself and be more considerate in the future. Over 3 posts now, you've shown a lack of emotional intelligence. I'm sorry, but I don't think anyone trusts your read on this. Since you've given him the gift, what did he do with it? Did he brag about it to his friends and family? Is it displayed prominently where everyone can see it? Has he mentioned to you how much he loves it? Not exactly thrilled with it is how I would describe someone receiving socks on Christmas morning. If that's the reaction you were aiming for, then great. But I guess that it's not because of the way you worded everything. OP. I'm presuming he didn't mention it at the dinner in case things got awkward, and I think he preferred to smooth things out with Claudia first. And yes, it's currently in the hallway for anyone who enters to see it. You seem fairly self-aware and willing to change. It's going to require demonstrating action though. I totally get where you're coming from. You feel like an outsider and everyone is on some inside joke. I don't think you're wrong for feeling insecure. You might want to talk to a professional to work through those feelings because they're not stemming from your boyfriend. They're coming from some more deep-seated desire within yourself to always be a part of something. Assuming y'all stay together long-term, you have so much opportunity to make your own memories together. I would sit down with your boyfriend and talk with him openly about what he wants in the relationship and such. You can also explain where you're coming from. The goal of that conversation being a clear view of where the road is taking both of you. OP. You're completely right. I think when initially meeting his friends, I felt a bit like an outsider, especially with his history with Claudia. I know I probably sound unhinged from my last 2 posts, but I promise I'm normally a sane human. Still, I appreciate your advice. The boyfriend saying she should have gotten him a PS5 is so telling. My guy just wants to live his life and enjoy the time he's got. Open heart surgery isn't a death sentence, but it is one of the events where when you're young, it provides a little perspective on life. And his girlfriend has misunderstood that entirely. She made his birthday and his gift an event for her to show off and insert herself into a time of his life he had more than likely just like to move on from. OP is a narcissist and an egoist. I hope her boyfriend sees it sooner rather than later. Claudia, on the other hand, is pure gold. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk or not? Please let us know.
I mean, it sounded like a nice gift to me and her heart was in the right place. People on Reddit are just so... I just don't have a word for it. The way they're so...
Hostile? Accusatory? Unhinged?
These words would be an understatement, Reddit boy.
Am I the jerk for not wanting to help my wife with Halloween costumes? Context. My wife, who's 29, always makes the kids Halloween costumes. We have 3 kids who are 5, 7, and 9. She did not have an amazing childhood, and so I think she's constantly trying to make sure our kids do. She home makes every birthday cake, DIYs the birthday decorations, makes pajamas for every holiday, and always home makes the Halloween costumes. She also does these theme monthly movie nights where she creates this whole scene. For example, this month was Coraline. She made custom dolls for each kid, welcome home cake, and the whole food spread. This is all great, but the problem is she expects me to help. All our kids are in activities. We both have full-time careers, and I believe she stretches herself thin trying to do all this, and also expects me to. We have the money to just go all out and buy stuff, so I don't get why we have to do so much. She says these are the things our kids will remember. Anyway, this all came to a head as I've been out of town most of the month for work, so she had to shoulder the full responsibility of the kids. This caused her to be behind on making the costumes, and she's stressed. She was asking me if I'd be able to create one of the costumes for her. She has the supplies and can walk me through it. The problem is, I just don't feel like it. I told her we can go get a cheap costume, it's no big deal. Well, she refused and was up all night finishing these costumes. I told her this morning that they all looked awesome and she just rolled her eyes at me. She was making coffee and I asked her if she'd make me a cup. She replied to go buy one. She's been distant and cold. I was talking to my coworker and he called me out, saying my wife is right. My kids will remember the effort my wife put in and they'll also remember how hard I made it for her. Now I'm feeling off, like maybe I am the jerk. But at the same time, I usually do help a bit. I was thinking this one time wouldn't be a big deal since we were both tired. So, am I the jerk? Okay, I'm the jerk. I'll apologize and see if she needs help with anything else. However, I'm positive that half the parents commenting don't do these things and still think they're doing a great job. Update. We're fine. We sat and talked and we laughed about how all you are going off on me. We carved pumpkins with the kids. We've been together since we were 16. We've been married for 9 years. No one's going anywhere. I love my wife, I love my kids, and I'm a very present and active husband and father. Happy Halloween. You're the jerk. Even if this isn't something that you prioritize all the time, you could have helped her with the costume because it's important to her. But beyond that, your attitude about your wife's efforts is just terrible. She's working her hardest to show the kids they're a priority to her and making really fun and special memories for them. All you have to say about it is that it's a waste of time. The fact that you don't appreciate and support her efforts is just really sad. What do you propose she do with the extra time she would save by not making things special for the kids? What do you do to spend time with your kids and show them that you care? Your coworker's right. The way you're behaving must be making your wife so sad. By the way, she's been taking care of the kids most of the month by herself, so you can go out of town and further your career. Do you do the same for her? Or is she expected to be the one to take off work every time the kids need something? It really seems like you take her for granted. Yeah, honestly, as a kid, they don't care what you make. It's the effort that matters. For my baby's first birthday, my partner and I tried so hard to make her a cake. We tried so hard, but it was really difficult, and honestly it was laughable because I still took pics for memories. Then we bought a nice one. We play with her loads, and we'll have crafting things all set up when she's older. My partner is so excited to create with her. Please, OP, don't miss out. You'll never get this time again. You're the jerk. I was on the fence until the "I don't feel like it" and the coffee comment. I mean, really, guy? You were away for a month and she had to deal with the kids by herself. Then she asked for help, and rather than you guys ordering food, putting some music on, and having a night together finishing the costume, you decided it wasn't worth the effort. The worst part was the audacity asking her to pour and make you a coffee the following morning when you knew she had been up all night stressing. It's about how we make things work, being there when we see our partner struggling. This also includes when we ourselves are burnt out. You could have had a nice night with your missus and you messed it up. She might be a bit over the top when it comes to going the extra mile for your kids, but isn't that what makes it magical? As anyone who grew up with a crappy childhood, I applaud her efforts.
Not the jerk. If wife wants to do Halloween stuff with the kids, then she can go right ahead. She can be as childish as she wants to be. But you? As long as you're working and providing, then worrying about stupid costumes is not your responsibility. Our founding fathers would be rolling over in their graves if they could see how far we've fallen over these past 200 years.
Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his wife? Please let us know.
Bruh, going to Party City and picking out my costume was one of my favorite parts of Halloween.
I left my girlfriend stranded when she chose to ignore me. I, 27, went to a pumpkin patch with my girlfriend, who's 22, and a bunch of her friends. I was told it was a couples thing, but I was the only guy there. That's fine, I'm okay with her friends. I'm past the whole cutesy date thing, but I like making her happy. But then they all started ignoring me. Every time I tried to join in on a conversation or spend time with my girlfriend, I got frozen out, like I was intruding. I asked her if she wanted to go do the corn maze with me, and it was like I was some creepy guy at a bar. They all had to come along, like I was trying to separate her. I totally was, but I don't think that's a bad thing. Anyways, they all decided to split up in the maze, and my girlfriend went with them. Forget this noise. I could go catch the Seahawks game if I boogied, so I texted her that she had 5 minutes to respond to me, or I was going back to town to watch the game, and she could get a ride back with her friends. I was literally watching the second quarter before she responded. It took her that long to even notice that I was gone. She said her friend would have to drive really far out of her way to drop her off, and that I should just come get her. I was definitely over the limit, and I told her to get an Uber and I would pay for it. She said never mind and spent the night at her place instead. I just woke up to about 50 texts from her and her friends calling me a jerk for leaving without telling anyone. I did tell her, she just chose to ignore me. I'm kind of upset that I wasted all that gas and time, and we never even got to actually spend the time together. I'm upset with her and her BS friends. Am I the jerk? Edit to provide answers to some common questions. We've been dating for about 6 months. Our age difference is roughly 3 years and 10 months. I didn't realize that made me a creep. I enjoy taking her out and having fun. She's just starting her career and I'm established in mine, so I like taking her out for fun stuff she enjoys. When I said I'm past the cutesy date thing, I meant that I would not be the one to suggest to date at a pumpkin patch. But she was a theater kid and I took her to see Hamilton. She loved it. I go out of my way to take her to things she will enjoy. And when we hang out with my friends, they all include her because she's awesome. My friends' wives and girlfriends all involve her in stuff too. This is the first time that she's behaved like this. The pumpkin patch had 5 bars of signal and all of them were posting constantly the entire time they were there. Edit number 2 because I can't do math. The difference in our ages is exactly 4 years and 37 days. Sorry. Edit 3. For those of you with a problem with our age difference, think of it as her robbing the grave, not me robbing the cradle. Not the jerk. She literally just used you as a free ride to her friend's get-together. Would not even be surprised if the girls were planning something shady and got upset that you showed up. You are over the cutesy phase, so I assume you guys are not together for long. If so, dump her. She's just using you until someone better shows up. Couples don't act like this. Honestly, he should dump her for being over the cutesy stage alone. My husband and I still do cutesy couple stuff a couple times a year because it's fun to be silly, and I love themed events. Not the jerk. In my opinion, she kind of tricked you into coming there, and after you went, she iced you out and ignored you, which is not okay. You gave her a heads up before leaving as well. Technically, she was not stranded as she had other company. Had you left her alone, this would be a different situation. But because she had company as well, I believe you are not the jerk at all. No, you're not the jerk. It was obviously a bad call on her part for her to coax you into going. She should have known how this situation was going to play out. Also, shame on her friends for treating you like an outsider. My friends and I always make sure to include our friends' significant others in conversations and activities because we all know what it's like to be the odd person out. Also, the fact that it took her that long to realize that you weren't there or to check her phone, to me, shows precisely where you rank in importance in her life. Then, because you didn't hang around like a good little puppy dog waiting patiently for her, she chose to talk crap about you to her friends all night, which I can guarantee is what they were doing, because that's what women do in groups together when they are angry. Your girlfriend sounds ridiculously inconsiderate. Not only do I think you're not the jerk, I think it's time to get a new girlfriend or to just go back to being single. I mean, if you're running into these kinds of problems with something this small and simple, Imagine what things will be like when life gets really complicated. Do you really think she's going to step up to the plate and be a better person when she has shown herself to be like this? You're the jerk. You're 27 and she's 22? Seriously? What is it with you creepy dudes who refuse to date in your own age range? A 1 or 2 year difference is usually okay, maybe even 3, but a 5-year age gap? Just ew. If you can't get anyone in your own age range, just stay single. I can't even tell you how many guys in their 30s try talking to me on dating sites. I'm only 27, so the oldest I'll go is 29. And even that's stretching it, because he'll probably be a creep.
Sounds to me like those guys on the dating site are dodging a bullet by you not responding to them.
Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his girlfriend? Please let us know.
Dump her, bro. Find someone who, respects you as a person.
Am I the jerk for not paying for a competition trip? I, 30 female, am married to my husband Joey, who's 34. We both have daughters from previous relationships. My daughter is Haley, she's 10, and his daughter is Jenna, she's 11. Both of our daughters are cheerleaders for different teams. We recently had their competition where the winners of first and second place go to compete in Disney. I've been saving all year since Haley's team is really competitive. Joey didn't save for it because Jenna is on a smaller town team that's not very competitive. Haley's team unfortunately did not win their competition this year. Jenna's team did win theirs. Haley, my husband, and I were all proud of her and congratulated her. Later that night, my husband asked me about finances for the Florida trip. We've always kept finances for the girls separate, as I pay for Haley and he pays for Jenna. I explained that since Haley's team didn't win, I figured her and I could do something instead with the money that I saved for Florida. Haley doesn't know this was my plan yet. My husband thinks I'm being selfish and a jerk because Jenna's team did win and we should use that same money for her to go. I think Haley could use a pick-me-up. I know people might ask about Jenna's mother and she's not able to help financially for Jenna to go. We have already spoken to her, and if any of the girls on the team cannot go to Florida, then the team has to forfeit. The team might do some fundraising, but the expenses will be on the parents. Am I the jerk? Edit to answer some questions. 1. We can't make it a family trip because there's not enough money. I had saved enough for myself and half of Haley's trip. Haley's father was paying the other half of her trip. 2. My husband doesn't believe in loans when it comes to family. 3. I did see some people ask how Haley would feel about it. Haley knows her dad and I save this money for her every year. Her dad and I go without some luxuries for a while, and she sees the sacrifices we go through. I don't ever regret it. However, I won't ask her to use that money for her stepsister because she shouldn't have to get in the middle. 4. My ex thinks we should do something nice for our daughter. Either a small trip, a fun outing, or new clothes or shoes, etc. Just something fun, and then use the rest for the next cheer season or for her next big expenses. Update. Tonight my husband and I had another disagreement about the money. I did call my ex because I didn't want Haley to overhear any of the argument, and we decided it'll be best for her to spend the week with him. I'm going to go stay at my parents' house for a couple days. As of right now, my husband has been calling and sending numerous texts calling me the jerk and selfish. I'm currently ignoring it. When I dropped off Haley to my ex, we did talk about how Haley will be needing braces for a long time. She currently has her first set and will be getting a second set in the future. So we've decided to talk about putting that money towards Invisalign if she wants that instead in high school. I feel like this is a tough one, and a lot of the context that would drive a good answer to this is missing. On one hand, this sounds like a simple not the jerk. You prepared, he didn't. That's not your fault. But the way you explain it, it was 100% reasonable he did not prepare. It did not sound like either of you expected them to win and make it to Disney, so it's 100% reasonable not to be saving up for it. I'm going to go with no jerks here because I see both perspectives. Being in a family is to some extent about a give and take situation. If Jenna isn't able to go because there's no money, at the same time you and Haley still do a trip to Florida, you're going to end up spending more money on therapy than the trip cost in the first place. Is there some compromise? Can he save up some of the money and you loan him the rest, which he pays back over the next X time period? Then you and Haley can take a trip. That would be less time-bound than the competition. Now, if the husband is out wasting his money on partying and drinking and video games and buying crap, that's another situation. But there's nothing in your post that screams crappy husband that wastes money. Rather, a situation you weren't expecting occurred and no one is at fault for the lack of savings. Edit. My comment was made prior to all of the edits and responses from OP, based on the updates, changing to not the jerk. Everyone sucks here. Family policies that keep not only the money but the kids separate so that he pays for his daughter and then you pay for your daughter are horrible in their very existence. You cannot more clearly say to a kid, "I don't consider you family to me or my kid," than by refusing to treat them financially as your own. Everything else that happened in this situation came out of that. He didn't bother to save enough, but it wouldn't have mattered if you had ever really combined your family. If he routinely spent his money foolishly, you would have already had the discussion about taking responsibility for the family as a whole. You wouldn't have been able to put it off as not your problem because it wasn't your daughter. And he obviously just as much doesn't see your daughter as his own. If he did, he would have been saving money while it was expected that she was likely to win her competition, because that way he could help send her to the tournament she was expected to go to. And it would have been easy enough, if Jenna won and Haley didn't, to change the direction of the family money over to Jenna's trip. Both you and your husband have created and maintained a policy which sucks for both of your kids in ways that go far, far beyond the question of whether or not Jenna will be able to go to this tournament. You've ensured that neither of them will be able to bond with their step-parent and feel securely a part of the family as a whole. And you've set them up to constantly compete with each other by making it clear that whenever there's a shortage of something, each kid will be championed by their biological parent and opposed by the other. It doesn't matter how you put it. Disparities will always come up. What happens if one of the exes is better off than the other, thus better set to provide for their kids? Are you supposed to use what your ex gives for their kids to a common pool where the other partner may not be able to put in as much? Wait for brows to start raising, because it's not fair that child support that's supposed to be used for one kid, as in this case, goes to compensate for the parent who's not able to provide. I guess this is always going to be an issue with blended families, and this is why these arrangements are made beforehand. They may sound crappy, but how would you solve that so that there's no injustice, imbalance, or disparity to anyone? It's not about avoiding disparity. It's about avoiding the "not my kid, therefore not my problem" approach on both sides. So long as they address issues related to either kid as a team, because they are both their kids, and they and their collective kids are one family, how you handle the details doesn't matter much. And that is very clearly not what is occurring here. The adults are not merely paying each for the expenses of their own kid, but thinking of them as my kid versus your kid, and that's a huge problem for the kids. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her husband? Please let us know.
He's not entitled to your money when he refuses to save for his own daughter.
My Karen neighbor demands I pay her gas bill because my house now blocks her sunlight. We had a second floor added to our house because of our expanding family. Our street is a big hill, so the house to the right of us is lower than our house. With our house now being 2 stories, it blocks the sun from hitting the majority of our neighbor's house, as well as a good portion of her backyard closest to her house. When we were building during the summer, she was mostly upset because her flower beds at the backside of her house stopped getting sun. With the weather getting colder, she says it's making her house much colder because the sun doesn't warm it up now. So she's already having to use her heater even though she doesn't usually have to this time of the year. She says she's now going to have a huge increase in her gas bill. I did suggest that it might balance out since it would keep her house cooler in the summer, since she wouldn't have to use her AC as much. She says she never uses her AC though because she likes it warm. Anyway, she wants us to pay for the difference in her gas bill, saying that if we had just built out instead of upwards, she wouldn't be having this problem. We didn't build out though because we would have lost a lot of outdoor space which we use. She says she'll even show me her past electric and gas bills to prove it. I still don't really feel like it's our responsibility to pay for that though. Edit. We did have permits and inspections done. Our neighbors cut down a perfectly healthy tree that shaded most of our yard and house all summer long because it was messy and they were sick of dealing with it. It was quite an eye-opener for me as to how much a neighbor can inadvertently influence your property and quality of life. It ruined the use of our deck and backyard. We bought umbrellas, but they were poor substitutes, and our summertime family gatherings ended because it was too hot to hang out outside like we used to. Your neighbor is understandably disappointed and upset, but her request for money is ridiculous since you did nothing illegal. Stuff like this happens when you have neighbors who live close by. You had every right to build onto your house just as my neighbor had every right to cut down that tree. Your neighbor's anger towards you will never go away. Your addition has diminished her enjoyment of her property and quality of life. That is a fact, and she has every right to be mad about it, however unintentional it was. No jerks here. This happens where I live all the time. People buy small capes, knock them down, and build 2 to 3 story mini mansions on the lots. It looks ridiculous, but as long as the builder has the permits, it's allowed. My neighbor was building a house next to me. We were talking about how his house would block my view. He kindly lowered his roof line in the back so we could have the view from the upstairs. We let them use our driveway when they have guests. We help each other out when needed. A little consideration goes a long way. Am I the jerk for telling my infertile in-laws that their dog is not equal to a kid? 2 years ago, my husband, who's 34, and I, 33 female, became pregnant. This was huge for us, as we both have always been really passionate about becoming parents. Before we could tell anyone, my husband's brother, who's 35, and his wife, who's 38, told the family that they had been trying to conceive, but found out they couldn't. Apparently, my sister-in-law feared this due to past medical problems, but now it was confirmed by doctors. They were devastated, and we were heartbroken for them. My husband and I decided to hold off on announcing. We waited 3 months, but then it was starting to show, and we had no choice. A week after we announced, my brother-in-law and sister-in-law adopted a dog named Bella. Immediately, she was all they talked about, and they refused to go anywhere without her. We used to be close, but this has ruined our relationships with them. My husband and his brother don't hang out anymore because my brother-in-law is so obsessed with Bella that he's hard to talk to. Brother-in-law lost friends over this obsession, and sister-in-law has quit her job so she doesn't have to spend any time away from the dog. We even stopped our weekly family dinners because Bella barks non-stop, pulls food off the tables, bites, etc. She's a nightmare. Plus, my husband is allergic and can't be around her for longer than an hour anyway. Brother-in-law and sister-in-law call Bella the first grandchild. They also call her the first girl of the family. There haven't been any girls born in this family for 5 generations, which bothers me because my daughter is those things, not their dog. They even think my daughter and their dog should be treated equally, and they get upset when they're not. Even when I gave birth and people were reaching out to check on me and my daughter, they sulked and made a long post on Facebook saying they were hurt no one had done the same for them when they adopted their dog. I've been biting my tongue about it for over a year because I know that they're coping with an extremely painful situation. But this week, I finally snapped. Recently, a relative invited us and baby to their wedding, but told my in-laws explicitly not to bring Bella. On Sunday, as my husband and I were just about to leave his parents' house, I heard brother-in-law say that if his dog wasn't invited, then my daughter shouldn't be either. Why should they get to bring her if we can't bring Bella? They say things like that all the time, but this time I finally snapped and said, because Bella is a dog and my daughter is an actual human baby. My kid and your pet are not the same. We left, but later my brother-in-law called my husband to say that I had really hurt them and made my sister-in-law cry. My husband says that I shouldn't have said anything and I should take it back. I know their dog is like their kid, and I don't mean to be cruel or insensitive, but I'm also so tired of hearing them compare my daughter to a dog, and I don't want her to grow up around people who think that she's equal to a poorly behaved animal. Am I the jerk? My cat was my mom's first grandkid a few years ago. No one took it seriously. Later on, as more piled in, she'd pull out her phone to show off the human grandkids to people, and as scrolling through, she'd have pictures of my cat in the folder, and she just laughed and say, "Oh, there's the first." But it was a joke. I'd never for a second think she rated along a human, and no one was confused. Sounds like they really need therapy. I'm really having a hard time believing the details in this story. I really think that I want to believe that you are really inflating their behavior surrounding the dog. Even just by your title, I was so ready to call you the jerk. But good lord, if this story is even 70% reality and still 30% hyperbole, then that is absolutely awful. I would have to say you're not the jerk, and also that this couple needs therapy, immediately and badly. So I need to share this because people are doubting that sister-in-law and brother-in-law could behave this way. I believe it because many years ago, me and extended family would rent a beach house. My youngest sister-in-law and hubby had no kids, but a lovely dog. The beach house did not allow pets. Sister-in-law planned on smuggling in their dog. When talking to my mother-in-law about this, she looked at me and said something to the effect, "Well, we're allowing your kids." I'll be honest, I had no words, because as much as I love dogs, I do not think of them as the same as kids. As I recall, I stared at her for a moment and I walked away. Not the jerk, and your in-laws have big issues. Obviously, other family members feel the same since they had to explicitly say Bella was not invited to the wedding. The only person who should be apologizing is OP's husband to OP. His kid is not the same as a dog. What OP said was the truth. Would I be the jerk if I refused to eat food from my in-laws' house during our visit? My husband, 23 male, and I, 23 female, have families who live far apart from one another, so we always split the holidays. This year, we're spending Thanksgiving with my parents and Christmas with his. Because of our work schedules, we'll only be with his family for about 3 days at Christmas time. Recently, my husband visited his parents for a few days and stayed at their house. When he returned, he told me that their fridge and freezer at his parents' house was completely broken, and all the food within it was spoiling within days, if not hours of being purchased. I told him that was a bummer and asked when his parents were planning on getting it fixed. He then told me that, against his own wishes, his parents had no plans to get it fixed anytime soon. In fact, the refrigerator had apparently already been broken for weeks before he arrived. His parents and younger sibling were eating spoiled or semi-spoiled food. I told him that I thought that was crazy, and he agreed with me. He said that he refrained from eating anything that needed to be refrigerated while he was there, which was easy to do because most of the time he was hanging out at a friend's house and eating restaurant and fast food. But this won't be the case around the holidays. This is where I could potentially be the jerk. I told him that if we arrived at Christmas time and the fridge and freezer still weren't fixed, then I didn't want to eat anything that came from his parents' house. I have kind of a sensitive stomach already, and the thought of eating spoiled food is really scary and gross to me. My husband said that he understood, but that this would likely offend his parents. I'm scared of offending his parents by refusing to eat their food, as I grew up in a region where food is seen as an act of hospitality. I also come from a family that's a bit wealthier than my parents, so I worry about coming across as snobbish or stuck up. But I really can't fathom knowingly eating spoiled food. Would I be the jerk if I refused to eat the food at my in-laws' house? Not the jerk. If their fridge isn't fixed, please just don't go. You shouldn't stay with someone who lives in an uninhabitable condition. Maybe you guys can offer to pay to get their fridge repaired or something before the holidays as a Christmas gift. OP. Unfortunately, my husband and I are both very early in on our careers, and we don't really have the disposable income to do that. I'm totally financially independent from my parents, and I don't receive any money from them. Even if we could, I know that such a gift would be offensive and embarrassing to them. Not the jerk. That's disgusting. Refusing spoiled food is not snobbish or stuck up. They're delusional. Your husband should tell them they either buy a new fridge or you will get refunds on those tickets so you can buy them one, and then they won't see you. OP. Yes, it is gross. I'm not even sure it's solely a money issue, although that's probably a factor. They spent money recently on semi-expensive things, like a vacation and expensive concert tickets to see a famous singer. His parents are very go-with-the-flow people, so it's possible that it's a combination of them not having a ton of extra money plus them not seeing this as a huge issue. Update. I was relieved to hear that I'm not being stuck up for not wanting to eat the spoiled food. My in-laws still haven't made any effort to purchase a new fridge. At this point, it's been broken for almost 2 months. They do have a styrofoam container/box that they keep in the garage that they've been using as a freezer, so that's good. I believe it's mostly meat that's kept in there. But as for the refrigerated items and freezer items that can't fit in the box, they all go bad within days, if not hours. My husband mentioned to them that he didn't think that refrigerators all cost $2,000, but my mother-in-law is doubling down that a replacement fridge would cost $2,000. I have no idea where they're getting that number from, but they won't budge and keep insisting that they can't afford a new one, so it's not looking great. If they haven't fixed the fridge by Christmas, my husband is going to send his little brother, who's in high school and lives at home, a few $100 to go buy a mini or a used fridge before we get there. That's total BS. You can get a standard size stainless steel fridge for around $650 from Lowe's or Home Depot. If plain white will do, it's more like $575. This sounds more like a mental health issue to me. OP. I know, right? I'm so confused. I actually can't even think of a reason why they're insisting it's so expensive. The only thing I can think of, which I hate, is that they still owe my husband and I some money from our wedding. They had wedding funds for all of the kids, and have told us that they're going to give it to us multiple times, despite us saying that that's not necessary. I wonder if they're subliminally trying to get us to refuse or send the money back when they pass it along, which I have no issue with, but I'm not totally convinced that they would use it on a new fridge. I see used fridges on Facebook Marketplace all the time. I'm not saying they'd have to have a used fridge forever, but it would be better than nothing while they save up for a new one. Plus, How much money are they wasting on their food spoiling? I traveled to Japan with my boyfriend's mom and it became a nightmare. Should I break up with him? I, 26, went on a 12-day Japan trip with my boyfriend who's 28 and his mom who's 58. We'd been together for less than 2 years. I already told my boyfriend from the beginning that I wasn't comfortable traveling with his mom as she has a strong attitude and I knew we would clash. He bought my ticket anyways and told me that he wanted me to experience Japan as well and that his mom would most likely do her own thing. This was my first out-of-the-country trip and it was also going to be my birthday. When we get on our bus to our hotel, it's common manners to be quiet and no one was talking. When we ask her to politely lower her voice, she's like, "Why do I have to follow the rules? So what?" This irritated me as it wasn't our country and we should be respectful. We go to a fancy mall where my boyfriend and I have no interest in anything here since we can't afford it. So we tell her to take her time looking around and shop for whatever she wants. So we leave her, but we're in the same vicinity and my back's killing me due to all the standing and walking we've done. So we go to a cafe and buy a small peach juice, need to buy food to sit down. She sees we're at the cafe and gets mad that we didn't ask her if she wanted anything when we were only there to sit down. So she storms off and goes back to the hotel on her own. At this point, I don't talk to her anymore unless she talks to me. I leave her alone and let her talk to her son and I give them some space whenever I can. I finish cleaning my laundry in the bathroom and I go lay down on my bed. Out of nowhere, she starts screaming in Tagalog. Turns out, my boyfriend let her know that his luggage space won't be able to fit her stuff and that she needs to be careful of how much she buys so it'll all fit. Mind you, we all have our own carry-on and large check-in bag because we all wanted to buy stuff in Japan. She goes off on him and tells him he's going to have bad karma, but it's literally his own luggage and she could buy more luggage or ship it off if she needs to. I felt bad because my boyfriend started buying less and I offered to put his stuff in mine as well. She also said that we've been selfish for not going where she wants to go. Except we've been going to the secondhand store she wants, and I always ask my boyfriend if they want to leave me while I go shopping and have their own time together to do whatever they want. Also the fact that we didn't go to Universal, but we planned this trip 3 months in advance with a whole itinerary and let her know we were doing Disney Sea over Universal. The screaming was just so unnecessary, and this is where she continues to act like a kid for the rest of the trip. Where she'll just take off with no communication, huff at us, mutter stuff under her breath. I found out that she usually travels with my boyfriend, her other son, and her husband, but they're divorced. My boyfriend has told me that he places his mom first before me. He does treat me like a princess, carrying my bags, going where I want if I ask, doing all the navigation. So I see she's used to being the main princess, and with me around, she didn't get her usual treatment. So she ended up throwing a fit. As people are getting seated in the airplane, she gets in my face in front of everyone, angrily points at me, and says that if I want my boyfriend, I can have him. That it's a competition between me and her for her son. That I've been hogging him this whole trip. I don't say anything back because I'm literally in shock and I don't want to rile her up more. I broke down crying the whole 5 hours back to LAX. My boyfriend didn't defend me, didn't comfort me. I was supposed to go back with them, but I'm so thankful that my friend was able to come pick me up instead because she was still mad after the plane ride. I wasn't able to fully enjoy my Japan trip as I was always walking on eggshells and didn't get to celebrate my birthday. Should I break up with my boyfriend because of his mom? He bought you tickets when you said you didn't want to go and repeatedly picks his mom over you. You really don't want the future that's unfolding before you. Yes, you should break up with him, but because of his own completely unacceptable behavior. There's a saying, it's easier to break up with a mama's boy than to divorce a mama's boy. And both of those are easier than it is to change a mama's boy. Parents always dump their kids with me at family events. I never wanted to be a babysitter, but somehow that's what I always ended up being at every family gathering. It didn't matter if I barely knew the kids or their parents, they would always find a way to dump them on me and disappear. It started when I was 14 and continued until I was in my 30s. I had moved away from my extended family when I was 5, so I didn't see them very often. But whenever there was a birthday, a wedding, or a holiday, they would invite me and my parents to join them, and that's when the trouble began. The first time it happened, I was sitting at a table with my cousin and his wife, who had just had a baby. They seemed nice enough, but as soon as they finished their food, they handed me the baby and said they were going to get some drinks. They didn't ask me if I wanted to hold him or if I knew how to take care of him. They just assumed I would be happy to do it. I wasn't. I had never held a baby before, and I had no idea what to do with him. He was tiny and fragile, and he smelled like milk and diapers. He started crying after a few minutes, and I panicked. I tried to rock him, tried to sing to him, to make funny faces at him. Nothing worked. He just cried louder and louder, attracting the attention of everyone in the room. I looked around for his parents, hoping they would come back and rescue me, but they were nowhere to be seen. They had left me alone with him, without a word of explanation or apology. I felt angry and betrayed. How could they do this to me? This happened many times over the years until I had enough. The last time it happened, when I was now in my 30s, at a party and gathering with my husband's family. I decided to take matters into my own hands. Once again, parents came over to introduce themselves and left their baby with me, even though I clearly told them that I was uncomfortable with them doing so. But it would only be for a minute. 10 minutes pass, 30 minutes pass. As the hour mark approaches and the baby is getting very fussy, I got up from the table carrying the baby with me and walked towards the bar where I had last seen them. I pushed my way through the crowd of people, ignoring their stares and comments. I finally spotted them, laughing and chatting with some other relatives with their glasses of wine in hand. They looked relaxed and happy, oblivious to my plight. I marched up to them and thrust the baby into their arms. "Here," I said, "take your kid back." They looked at me with surprise and annoyance. "What's wrong?" my sister-in-law asked. "What's wrong?" I repeated incredulously. "You left me with your baby for an hour without asking me or telling me where you were going. You expected me to babysit him while you had fun. That's what's wrong." They exchanged shocked glances. "We're sorry," her husband said. "We just wanted to catch up with everyone. We didn't think you would mind." "Well, I do mind," I said firmly. "I'm not your babysitter. I'm your sister-in-law, and I came here to enjoy myself, not look after your kid." They mumbled some more apologies and excuses, but I didn't listen. I turned around and walked away from them, feeling proud of myself for standing up to them. I thought that would be the end of it, but it wasn't. The next time I saw them, they had another baby, and they tried to do the same thing again. And so did other relatives who had kids, on multiple occasions. It became a pattern. Every time there was a family event, someone would dump their kid on me and disappear. It didn't matter if they were my aunties, uncles, cousins, or in-laws. They all seemed to think that because I was an only child, and because I didn't have kids of my own, that I would love to play nanny for them. They were wrong. I hated it. I hated being treated like a free service. I hated being ignored and taken for granted. I hated being stuck with kids who were noisy, messy, demanding, and sometimes rude. I hated missing out on the fun and the conversations everyone else was having. I hated feeling like an outsider in my own family. So I stopped going. I stopped accepting their invitations. They didn't seem to notice or care either. They never asked me why I stopped coming. They never apologized for what they did. They never tried to make it up to me. They just moved on with their lives without me in them, and so did I. I found new friends who respect me and value me for who I am, and they've never used me. I pretended to be a recruiter to troll a former workplace bully. A few months ago, I landed a job as a customer service rep at a company. Let's call it ABC Company. And there was this colleague, let's call her Karen. Even though we were on the same level, she liked to think of herself as my boss and would constantly micromanage me, making up stupid rules and forcing me to follow them. One day, I finally couldn't stand her and I called her out on her behavior. She got upset and went to complain to the manager, who then stepped in to resolve the conflict. I could tell the manager was on her side, but pretended to act fair and unbiased. Ever since this incident, Karen would occasionally throw shade at me, be passive-aggressive with me, and pass work that was supposed to be hers onto me. Basically, she would do all these little things just to annoy me and make my working day unpleasant. Despite me trying to ignore her, she'd keep coming at me because she knew her friends and the manager would side with her. And then one day, she purposely found an excuse to cause another huge drama, and the manager sided with her again. I couldn't take it anymore, and I quit on the spot. After about 2 weeks, I was still pretty angry with how she ruined my job. I decided to at least do something and get revenge. Where I live, recruiters and HR would often approach job applicants or any individuals open to work via WhatsApp. And because, based on Karen's LinkedIn profile showing she's open to work and that I have her phone number, I decided to approach her by pretending to be a recruiter by using a second phone number that I have. I approached Karen with this fake identity, and I told her that we were hiring a customer service rep position. I made up a job description that was similar to her current job, but with slightly better compensation and benefits. Once she said she was interested, I then gave her an application form and some customer service writing tests that I created to make it more believable. Also, with her job application form, I now have more of her personal info that I might be able to use in the future. After that, I scheduled an online interview with her on the day after tomorrow. When the day of the interview arrived, I texted her about an hour before the interview, saying that upon a background check, we found that she had been engaging in workplace bullying and harassment, and so we would not move forward with her application. Obviously, she was baffled and went, "What?" I didn't reply. She then said, "This is nonsense. I'm gonna check with them." Again, I didn't reply, because she's the type of person where the more you talk to her, the more she's gonna come back at you. She likes arguing, and the best way to annoy her is to ignore her so she doesn't have a channel to vent. I could already tell she's fuming. Plus, whether she asked her manager or not, that's still a win for me. If she asks, then her manager will know she's thinking of resigning, which will create an awkward situation. If she doesn't ask, then she's gonna feel embarrassed that someone out there knows of her toxic behavior and she has no way to defend herself. Initially, I wanted to make this a pro-revenge by taking it a step further by actually interviewing her and then offering her this fake job, making her resign from her current job, and finally telling her that we are rescinding the offer because of the background check. But then it would be quite hard to find someone else to interview her since she recognizes my voice. Also, I was worried that falsifying an offer letter would put me at risk of a lawsuit. So ultimately, I decided to just take the small victory with that fake background check. Actually, call your old employer for a fake reference check for Karen. Then they'll know for sure that she's looking for new work, even if she decides not to look into the workplace bullying thing. I'm 27, male. My girlfriend, who's 24, has the mental resilience of a toddler. How do I approach this? My partner and I have been together for 3 years. I would say everything has been great. We bicker here and there, but have never had any major arguments. I do most of the chores around the house, but I enjoy doing them, and while she struggles to help, she does make good effort that I'm happy with. The biggest gripe I've been having lately is that she will break down, cry, and throw a tantrum at the most minor of inconveniences. Can't park in her favorite parking spot, or has to park a little further away from the grocery store entrance, cry in her car for 20 minutes, and be in a miserable mood for the next hour or so. Loses while playing a video game, throws her headset or controller and cries. Has to go into work 30 minutes early, miserable the night before. Bank is closed because it's Saturday, whole day ruined, and will remain mute or barely talk for the next 2 hours. Keep in mind, this is only when she's around me. Close friends are with her family. When she's around coworkers or acquaintances, she's completely fine and can tolerate any amount of BS. I could deal for the first year and would usually respond with love and affection, such as a hug or hold her. It's slowly become more and more annoying until it's just become such a downer on my mood. It's hard to want to go out or do things with her because I'm always fearing something small will happen that sparks this. What's most frustrating is that after she's done throwing a tantrum, she'll act as if nothing happened, but I'm still stuck in a fight or flight mode. I don't know how to tell her that her reactions are overblown and wearing greatly on me. Obviously, if something minor sends her over the top, then me saying something like that will really upset her. I feel I've coddled her too much from these outbursts, and as a result, she expects it. Please help. Edit. I've taken in all the many responses. After a quick nap, I decided to bring it up and tell her what's going on. She got very sullen, but after I said my part, she admitted that it is an issue and that she feels bad about how it makes me feel. She understands that it's not right to doomsday over the little things. She didn't resist and agreed that it would be best to go to a therapist to get help. I've agreed to help her find one. I've dealt with depression for over a decade and used to get into really dark places, and after years of therapy, I'm in the best shape mentally thanks to good therapists. I do understand that she won't become perfect overnight, but I'm confident that there will be improvements, and that's all I really care about. Effort. Anytime I've brought up an issue, she's always been quick to correct it and keep continued effort. A little housekeeping. Her and I plan on never having kids, for our own individual reasons. I'm snipped, and I get a test done every year to ensure that I'm sterile. She's not on birth control or anything like that. You said recently. Is this really completely new behavior, or has she always been like this, and it's just starting to annoy you more? If she went from being totally normal to crying for 20 minutes about a parking spot, then I think she needs to be evaluated for depression. She needs therapy. I used to do something similar to this. Therapy made me realize that when I was a kid, this is how my mother would react to everything. She's 70 and still behaves this way when she doesn't get her way. I would get stuck because I desperately wanted to just ask for reassurance or a bit of comfort, but it gets all stuck in my head and I become overwhelmed and unable to communicate anything, and instead would just have insane, erratic emotions. If you're able to, I gently communicate with her and encourage her to find a therapist who can help her learn to handle her emotions and communicate more effectively. As someone who used to do this, I'd overreact out of depression and insecurity, which never worked out well. The slightest mistake, and I thought I was stupid, everything was ruined, etc. But then the embarrassment of an outburst like that led to a cycle of being stuck in a sulk, which was hard to climb out of. If this story was about a boyfriend who acted this way, you all would be calling him a man-child and telling OP to leave him. But of course, since the girlfriend is the one acting a fool, y'all just make excuses for her. Edit. Y'all love to downvote someone when they point out the hypocrisy y'all seem to think is okay. I'm not saying she don't need help. She does. But when dudes need help too, let's try to show a little compassion instead of name-calling them. Oh yeah, that's not an option since y'all been brainwashed to hate dudes no matter what. Are there some legit bad dudes out there? Sure, but most of us are just normal guys trying to make it in this world. We not the monsters y'all want to think we are. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard.
Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.